Chapter 533, Seeing Tai Ta Again. 4. Upon hearing the name of Changyang Shangtian, Bian's face grew shocked once more. Hurriedly bowing to Jian Shen, he spoke, Bian pays his respects to the honored imperial protector. Although Jian Shen had once been a student of Kargath Academy, his status now was completely different from before. Not only was he a Heaven Saint Master, he was the very first imperial protector of the Jessan Kingdom in several hundred years. Compared to before, it was completely useless to try and compare statuses. Even a vice-headmaster like Bian would have to bow to Jian Shen now. As soon as the entire audience heard the fact that the white-robed outsider that came along with Ming Dong was the extremely famous imperial protector of the Jessan Kingdom, Jian Shen, everyone became stupefied once more. Straight away, a clamor could be heard as they all looked at him with looks of both adoration and fear. If Ming Dong was a person to be idolized and worshipped in the hearts of the students, Jian Shen was a deity in comparison. One that they could never dare to offend. In the past, Jian Shen had been a person of influence in Kargath Academy. Even now, the achievements he had accomplished in the academy had been preserved to the present times. The champion of newcomers, the one who had gathered a shockingly large amount of monster cores, and the one who had defeated the Saint Kadiyun despite not even being a saint himself. Then finally, the very same saint who had cut off Qing Mingxiang's arm from the Huayun sect while also forcing several other students to sustain injuries. Each and every story Jian Shen was mentioned in caused the students of Kargath Academy to become extremely interested. Now after a span of several short years, Changyang Shangtian's strength had already reached the realm of the Heaven Saint Masters. Furthermore, he was also the imperial protector of the Jessan Kingdom. Such dazzling achievements like the ones that Changyang Shangtian held were enough for every single student to deify him within their hearts. Even the envious students didn't dare to ever show this on the outside. The entity that was known as a Heaven Saint Master was an existence that every student could only hope to look at in their lives. This was a boundary that many of them would perhaps never be able to reach in their entire lifetime. Underneath the arena, Kadi Chiuli's limpid autumn eyes widened in shock as she looked at the white-robed Changyang Shangtian with a complicated look of envy. He's really Changyang Shangtian? No wonder he felt so familiar to me. Seeing the handsome and positively brimming face of masculinity, Kadi Chiuli began to mutter to herself. In her mind, she couldn't help but think back to the events that had happened in the past with every possible feeling she had ever felt. Thinking back, Changyang Shangtian, her, and her two brothers had only just entered Kargath Academy. Everyone wasn't even a saint or had barely just became one. It had only been several short years since then. She and her two brothers were now the strongest in Kargath Academy, and her eldest brother Kadiyun had just recently made the breakthrough to become a Saint Master. They hadn't even left Kargath Academy yet while Jian Shen had, in these short years, become a high and mighty Heaven Saint Master. Heaven Saint Masters were part of a world where everyone yearned to be. Now that everyone knew that these two men were Changyang Shangtian and Ming Dong, the only ones that could be relatively calm were the Kadi siblings. Kadiyun and Kadiliang could only look at Jian Shen on the platform with complicated looks. For a long time, they were silent. They both could distinctly remember the rather unhappy feelings between the both of them way back then. Despite becoming a Heaven Saint Master as well as becoming an imperial protector for the Jessan Kingdom, Jian Shen hadn't the slightest air of arrogance to him. Hurriedly lifting Bian up, they began to speak several words of conversation. Ah, Changyang Shangtian, you've finally returned. Please, come on over to my place and allow me to do the honor as the host. Kafir smiled. Jian Shen coming to Kargath Academy meant that he had not forget about this place. This little insight made Kafir feel joy and pride in his heart. Then, I'll trouble the headmaster with this matter. Jian Shen cupped his hands with a smile. No worries. No worries at all. You coming here brings great honor to the entire Kargath Academy. Kafir laughed merrily before slowly ascending into the sky to reach the tower in the center of the academy. Unwilling to be left behind, Jian Shen began to gather the wind elements in the world to carry him and Ming Dong high into the sky. At a leisurely pace, he began to follow Kafir away from the arena, leaving behind a large group of students that could only look up in envy. Soon enough, Jian Shen had brought Ming Dong to the tallest point of the tower where Kafir was. This was not only the place where Kafir conducted business, but it was also where he slept and received his guests to talk about several important things. Kafir walked straight on over to the table and sat down. Calling for the two to sit down with him, he took out a bottle of wine from his space ring to serve to the two. This is a drink that an old friend, who specializes in drinks, distilled for me. Its name is the 100-flower wine, a drink that is made from 100 different ingredients before being refined and distilled by an expert. It is precious enough that I rarely get to enjoy it. Come, take a sip and see how well the taste suits you. Jian Shen and Ming Dong made no motions to be polite and took the drink to savor. With just a small mouthful, they both let out a sigh of praise. It is truly a fine wine. Even in the palace, I wasn't able to drink something as delicious as this. Jian Shen had drained his cup in a single gulp. It went without saying that Kafir had brought out an exquisite wine, but compared to the 100-grass wine that the Ape King had bestowed to him, it was still quite lacking. After finishing his drink, Jian Shen placed the cup gently back on the table. Then, taking out a jade bottle from his space ring, he said, "Headmaster Kafir, allow me to treat you to a genuinely matured bottle of wine." He took out the thousands-of-year-old 100-grass wine. Back then, the Ape King had gifted him roughly 10 caddy of the drink, where Jian Shen had used 9 out of the 10 to increase his strength. All that was left was this single caddy. The very moment Jian Shen began to pour the 100-grass wine for everyone to drink, a strong smell of wine began to flow out from the cups and fill the entire room. Smelling the intense scent, the headmaster was startled. What a wine! It is truly a fine wine. Even the scent alone is enough to make a man drunk from his heart on out. This is an exceptionally excellent wine. Changyang Xiangtian, where did you get such a wine? Whoa, Jian Shen, you've been hiding such a great wine from us. Quickly, pour us a cup, I want to try. Ming Dong impatiently pushed his cup to Jian Shen with sparkling eyes. Laughing, Jian Shen poured Ming Dong a cup. Slow down a bit. This wine of mine is something even money can't buy. When I was in the Cross Mountains, I had to spend a great amount of time in order to convince the Ape King of the Spirit Apes to give me some. That was a beast of the Saint Ruler level. I don't have much of it left, so every little bit counts now. Upon hearing that this was the wine given to Jian Shen by an Ape King of the Spirit Apes, Kafir's entire body began to rack up as if experiencing a seizure. There was a look of utter disbelief in his eyes as he stared at Jian Shen. The Cross Mountains was a designated forbidden area for humanity. Every single person that entered that area was basically guaranteed to never come back out alive. He hadn't thought that Jian Shen was not only able to enter, but he was also able to convince a Saint Ruler level individual to hand over such an excellent wine. Such a feat was mind-boggling. Ming Dong didn't look surprised at all. He already knew that this wine had to be very hard to obtain and simply drank a sip of the 100-grass wine. Then, closing his eyes from the intoxication, he began to relish the sensation of the fine wine entering his body. Seeing the intoxicated look on Ming Dong's face, the wine enthusiast Kafir could no longer hold himself back. Pushing away the questions he had, Kafir pursed his lips and took a sip. Straight away, 2 bright rays of light could be seen in his eyes as he let out a praise of admiration. Truly a splendid wine. Such a wine like this is something I have never drunk before. After drinking this, I feel as if every single wine I have tasted in my entire life is dull in comparison. With that, Kafir drained the remaining cup in a single gulp. Closing his eyes to bask in the intoxicated sensation, Kafir leaned back. This wine could not only increase one's saint force, it could also expand the spirit of the drinker. After drinking the wine, Ming Dong and Kafir couldn't help but close their eyes to experience it. Jian Shen smiled as he looked at the two. When he had drunk the 100-grass wine, he too did the exact same thing as these two. Suddenly, Jian Shen started. Staring in surprise at the headmaster, he could see that there was a faint layer of the energy of the world gathering around the headmaster's body. The energy of the world began to grow even more intense before finally disappearing into his floating body. At the same time, a strong amount of energy dispersed from him in such a strong wave that it shook Ming Dong from his drunken stupor. What's happening? Seeing how Kafir's body was suddenly floating in the sky, Ming Dong asked Jian Shen in confusion. Jian Shen slowly pulled Ming Dong away before smiling. Headmaster Kafir has made a breakthrough. What? A breakthrough? Ming Dong was startled. Looking at the cup of wine in his hands, he let out a look of disbelief. Don't tell me he made a breakthrough after drinking a cup of wine. Jian Shen nodded his head without a word. The effects of the 100-grass wine were something he was all too familiar with. The headmaster's body continued to disperse waves of energy one after another for some time before finally growing calm. His body gently descended back to the ground before he opened his eyes with apparent joy in them. Congratulations to Headmaster Kafir for climbing to the next level. Jian Shen congratulated. Kafir broke out into a smile. Ha ha ha. It is all thanks to this exceptionally fine wine. What a truly magical effect it has. 2 years ago, I was at the pinnacle of the 3rd cycle, but I found myself unable to make any more progress. I didn't think that today I would be able to break through that bottleneck and become a 4th cycle Heaven Saint Master after drinking a cup of wine. Does this wine really have such an effect like that? Ming Dong was skeptical. Immediately following Kafir's example, he poured the rest of the cup into his mouth and closed his eyes. Afterward, Ming Dong had finally digested the rest of the wine into his body. Surprised, he spoke, although I didn't break through, I can feel my saint force growing even stronger. Furthermore, I feel that my willpower has grown stronger as well. This wine is a priceless treasure that even tens of thousands of gold wouldn't be enough to purchase it. What use is gold? This 100-grass wine is something that only the magical beast clans would have. You won't find such wine outside of their clans. Jian Shen admonished. Jian Shen, pour me another cup. Ming Dong pushed his cup to Jian Shen with a pitiful look. Jian Shen placed the jade bottle back into his space ring with a pained look. I don't have much of this 100-grass wine left. How can I support your drinking habits like this? Grimacing, Ming Dong muttered to himself, if you don't let me drink, fine then. I'll wait until I become a saint ruler and go to that spirit ape for some. Jian Shen laughed after listening to Ming Dong's words. Then turning to Kafir, he said, Headmaster Kafir, I came this time to seek Tai Ta. After so many years, I wish to see my old friend. Where might Tai Ta be at this moment? Chapter 534, Golden Blood, 1, Kafir heartily laughed. So you remember even that child Tai Ta. Unfortunately, Tai Ta left Kargath Academy to return to his hometown 2 years ago. I originally planned on going to visit him, but I had no time to go on such a trifling visit because of the 4 kingdoms allying together to attack us. I never found myself having the time to see him. Having said that, I am not qualified to be considered his master. Tai Ta is in a very crucial moment of his youth to be taught and educated, but I have taught him very little. Headmaster Kafir shouldn't worry himself with that. Despite the straightforwardness of Tai Ta, he is a very capable genius in how he trains himself. There's no need for a teacher to guide him, he should be able to accomplish plenty with what he can teach himself. All that's left for him is to gain experience, but that is something that can be gained later. As long as he experiences true combat, he'll begin to improve rapidly. Jian Shen laughed. Kafir gave a nod of agreement. I remember that Tai Ta once said to me that his hometown was in a small mountain village. I believe he said it was located 1,000 or so kilometers to the north on a mountain that has a small city halfway up. I'm not too clear where it is precisely. A bright idea suddenly occurred to Jian Shen. He hastily brought out a map of the entire Jessen kingdom and placed on the table as he began to inspect it. Soon enough, Jian Shen found the corresponding topography that Kafir had spoken about. Pointing at the area, he declared, this should be the place. There is a 3rd-class city here halfway up the mountains. I believe that Tai Ta's residence will be somewhere nearby. Kafir looked at the place Jian Shen pointed at and nodded, yes, it should be in that general proximity. They left a short time later. Jian Shen stowed away the map back into his space ring and bade farewell to Kafir. He brought Ming Dong and him through the air as they rushed in the direction of the mountain city. With Jian Chen's speed, it took roughly 2 hours before the two arrived at the small city. This third-class city was known as Lus City, and was established on a mountain with an area that was smaller than Wake City by a small amount. It was rather simple and crude, with even the most rudimentary city walls left incomplete. Even the marbled roads that paved the streets were riddled with stones that peeked through the streets and made it hard for carts to travel over. For the sake of not causing a disturbance, Jian Chen and Ming Dong had descended from the sky onto a path that would lead them to the city. After entering it, Jian Chen walked into a store that sold all kinds of meat and placed down a gold coin. "Shopkeeper, I'd like to ask you about a person. As long as you tell me what I need to know, this gold coin will be yours." Even the devil himself would turn rocks for money, especially if it was just for such a tiny inquiry. A gold coin to the butcher was enough profit to cover several days' worth of work. There was no way the shopkeeper would decline this offer. However, he did not grab at the gold coin in Jian Chen's hand and instead said, "Little brother, speak. Whatever the case is, if this uncle knows, I will definitely inform you." "Shopkeeper, do you recognize a man named Tai Ta? He should be around my age," Jian Chen asked. Hearing this, the shopkeeper let out a delighted light in his eyes. Hurriedly, he said, I know him. Is he not a dark-skinned kid with long hair? His skin is really dark and is quite the straightforward little guy, right?" "Yes, that's him." "Shopkeeper, do you happen to know where he lives?" Jian Chen smiled and asked his next question. The shopkeeper suddenly grew cautious and stared warily at Jian Chen and Ming Dong. Grimly, he asked, "Who are you two, and why are you looking for him?" Knowing that the shopkeeper was afraid that he and Ming Dong were looking for Tai Ta for trouble, Jian Chen replied quickly, "Shopkeeper, we are students from Kargath Academy and old classmates of Tai Ta. We only wish to come pay him a visit." Upon hearing that Jian Chen and Ming Dong were students of Kargath Academy, the shopkeeper immediately felt at ease. With an admiring smile, he said, "Ah, Kargath Academy is truly the greatest institute in our Jessen Kingdom. Every single student that is accepted to that place is truly a talent among talents. I've heard that the newest imperial protector of our Jessen Kingdom was once a student of Kargath Academy as well." Jian Chen and Ming Dong smiled without saying a word at this. Thinking for a moment, the shopkeeper answered, "Since you're the classmates of that kid, I'll tell you where he lives." With that, the shopkeeper pointed a finger in the direction behind him. "Head 20 kilometers down the mountain to where a brook is. There's a forest next to the brook. Enter the forest and there'll be a village. In the village is a row of houses, and in those houses will be where that kid lives." "Couldn't you just say that there's a village 20 kilometers down the mountain? I feel ready to faint just hearing all those directions." Ming Dong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jian Chen laughed before handing over the coin to the man. He left the city with Ming Dong. Leaping across the area at a rapid pace, they began to move to the back of the mountain. 20 kilometers was truly too short of a distance for Jian Chen to feel like flying. The bawling sounds of several beasts could be heard as they crossed the forest. Having not been even Class 1 magical beasts, neither Jian Chen nor Ming Dong paid attention to them as they traversed across the mountains at lightning-quick speeds. Soon, there was a 5-meter-long river that the two of them crossed over. With another quick hike through the forest, they indeed discovered a small village on the other end. The village was rather small in size with roughly 30 or so families in it. The houses were arranged in a singular line and were rather clean and tidy. All around the village were a series of fields where all sorts of vegetation and paddies could be seen. Several of the peasants could be seen working in them as well. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both walked past the paddies until they arrived at the village entrance itself. Even after trudging past the fields, their shoes were still impeccably clean without a single spot of dust or dirt on it. The rich-looking robes the two of them wore caused them to look completely out of place in comparison to the peasant farmers who were all wearing coarse-looking clothing. So when the two arrived at this place, they caught the attention of all the villagers who began to grow nervous at their approach. Several of the villagers had already begun to clench their hoes and sickles tightly in preparation. "What business might my two lords have here?" An aged, old man began to tremble as he approached the two and questioned them carefully. Amiably, Jianshen smiled to the elder and spoke with a kind tone. Venerable elder, we are students from Kargath Academy along with Tai Ta, so we came today hoping to find him. Oh, so you're friends of Tai Ta. The elder let loose a sigh in relief. Then with a wave of his hand and a hoarse shout, he spoke, there's no need to worry everyone. These two are students of Kargath Academy and came looking for Tai Ta, their old classmate. The previously nervous-looking villagers immediately grew relaxed after hearing his words. There was a rather suspicious look on Jianshen after seeing this display. This was clearly a rather unordinary reaction from the villagers. Venerable elder, was there something that happened here recently? Jianshen asked. Nothing at all. The elder waved his hands before replying, Tai Ta went to hunt in the mountains earlier this morning. I reckon he'll be back soon. Please, come sit in our village for a while. After a moment's consideration, Jianshen agreed, very well, then we'll be troubling the villagers. Just at that moment, a deep and resounding voice could be heard from far away, father, mother, grandfather, first uncle, second uncle, and aunties, I'm back. Jianshen and Ming Dong both turned their heads instinctively only to see a rather well-built man with dark skin come walking from far away with a wild boar hung over his shoulders. Tai Ta has returned, he's back. Oh, and he even brought back a giant mountain boar. The elderly man cried out in excitement. Ming Dong looked at the boar-holding man with a rather disbelieving face. Jianshen, could this really be the Tai Ta you were looking for? Jianshen smiled and nodded. That's right, that's Tai Ta. When I was in Kargath Academy, he was the only friend I had. I see he's changed a lot after several years. Even I can barely recognize him, but his voice is still the same as back then. At that moment, Tai Ta saw the two newcomers to the village. With a slight tremble of his body, he tossed the boar he was carrying to the ground and charged toward Jianshen. Who are you two? Strange, why is it that I feel as if you're familiar to me? Have we met somewhere before? There was an icy tone to Tai Ta's words. However, when he gave a closer look to Jianshen, there was a suspicious glint in his eyes that soon turned to bewilderment. Seeing Tai Ta, Jianshen felt shocked as well. After many years without seeing each other, Tai Ta had already grown even bulkier than before. Small words aside, his body was practically a miniature mountain in size. Even at the height of 1.8 meters, Jianshen could only reach Tai Ta's chest, who seemed as if he was already reaching a height of 2.5 meters. Jianshen tilted his head up at the mountain-sized Tai Ta with a glittering smile on his face. Tai Ta, after so many years, could it be that you've forgotten me? Hearing such a familiar-sounding voice, Tai Ta's eyebrows creased together in thought. This voice, he muttered before growing silent. Then, his eyes began to brighten as if he remembered something. He looked joyously at Jianshen with excitement. You're Changyang Shangtian. Changyang Shangtian, I remember what you sound like. Jianshen smiled happily. Tai Ta, I thought for a moment that you had already forgotten about me. No, how could I? Changyang Shangtian, Tai Ta, would never forget you even for the rest of my life. Ha ha ha, you are the best brother I've ever had. Do you remember back when we were hunting magical beasts in Kargath Academy? Those were the happiest days I ever experienced in my life. For the remainder of this life of mine, I won't forget that either. Tai Ta boomed with laughter before hugging Jianshen in a tight embrace with vigor. Tears began to form in his eyes as he declared, Changyang Shangtian, I didn't think that you'd still be alive. This is great. I heard all about what happened between you and the Huayun sect from teacher. I know that you had to flee your home into the ruthless continent that is our Tian Yuan continent by yourself. But I never received any news from you after that, and I thought that I'd never be able to see you again. Chapter 535, Golden Blood, 2, Tai Ta was exuberantly excited and filled with glee. Ever since he had attended Kargath Academy, Jianshen had become the best of brothers to him. Tai Ta had felt his memories of Jian Chen etched deep into the bones of his body after the beast hunting competition in the forest, so they would never be forgotten. When the weaker-looking Jian Chen was wrapped in the arms of what appeared to be a black bear for a hug, he suddenly felt a large amount of power constrict him. Realizing that this was the raw strength of Tai Ta, Jian Chen couldn't help but feel surprised. Compared to several years ago, Tai Ta was far stronger than he was in the past. Even with his body tempered and reinforced by the chaotic force, he still found it rather hard to take in the hug. Gently pushing away Tai Ta's arms, Jian Chen looked up at the bear-like man with some shock. Tai Ta, a few years ago, you were the same height I was, but you actually grew so much since then. Tai Ta had calmed down quickly afterward. Rubbing behind his head, he laughed. Even I don't know what happened, but in any case, I grew a lot in 2 years. As he spoke, Tai Ta looked as if he was reminded of something and began to show worry in his eyes. Jian Chen had caught onto the worry in Tai Ta's eyes, prompting him to immediately ask in concern, Tai Ta, if there is some sort of difficulty you have, tell me and I will help you through it. It's nothing at all. Changyang Shangtian, this is the first time you've come to my home, come, sit and talk for a moment. Tai Ta patted Jian Chen's shoulder with a hand, and began to lead him to a nearby wooden house. Before they could even take a few steps, Tai Ta suddenly realized that he had completely forgotten about Ming Dong. Laughing a little mischievously, he said with a low voice to Jian Chen, Changyang Shangtian, this must be your friend then. Jian Chen laughed and introduced him, this is Ming Dong, my best friend. Tai Ta's other hand went to shake Ming Dong's hand quite enthusiastically. If you are a brother of Changyang Shangtian, you are a brother of mine. Brother Ming Dong, let us walk. Tai Ta, there's guests in our village. Giant, are these two your friends? Big bro Giant, who are these two? By now, every single villager had surrounded the three with curious expressions. Everyone called out to him affectionately and with ease. Smiling deeply, Tai Ta greeted everyone that greeted him one by one. After everyone left, they continued on their path to Tai Ta's place. The interior of his home was not too big, and it was split into 6 different regions, the kitchen, the dining room, and 4 rooms to sleep in. Aside from his own room, his parents shared one, his grandparents shared another, and the last one was occupied by his great-grandfather, who was already 150 years old, but could not cultivate Saint Force. Sitting Jian Chen and Ming Dong down next to the table, Tai Ta took out an ordinary bottle of rice wine and some iced meat to serve to the two. Changyang Shangtian, Ming Dong, my home is not as rich as the ones in the city, so I can only bring out this to serve. Seeing how wretched the food and wine he had served were, Tai Ta could only force a hollow smile in embarrassment. Jian Chen and Ming Dong were not fussy people in any shape or form. With a wave of their hands and a few polite words, the three began to eat large portions at a time. Despite the food being rather unremarkable in taste, this was the best that Tai Ta could offer. Just how could they not take even a single bite of it? Placing a piece of barbecued meat into his mouth, Jian Chen stared at Tai Ta and spoke with a rather ambiguous voice. Tai Ta, I heard that you left Kargath Academy 2 years ago and never came back. Did something happen back home? Tai Ta's eyes immediately flashed with terror at Jian Chen's words. His mouth slammed shut without even the tiniest of sounds to be heard. Swallowing the final piece of meat in his mouth, Jian Chen concentrated his stare at Tai Ta and grimly inquired. Tai Ta, tell me what situation you found yourself in. Do you or do you not take me as your brother? Frantically, Tai Ta began to wave his hands. No, that's not it, Changyang Shangtian. You misunderstand, you are the best brother I've ever had. Then whatever it is that's troubling you, say it. I may be able to help. Jian Chen pressured. He was already certain of the fact that Tai Ta was in trouble. Tai Ta was one of Jian Chen's good friends, so with him coming across trouble now, Jian Chen wouldn't dare sit idly to the side. Tai Ta. Just say whatever it is on your mind to Jian Chen. Don't worry about a thing. Jian Chen isn't the same wandering type of person he was in Kargath Academy. Within the Jessen Kingdom, there isn't anything Jian Chen can't fix. Ming Dong chimed in. The straightforwardness of Tai Ta was enough for Ming Dong to follow Jian Chen's example and treat him as a very good friend. Those with a straightforward and honest nature would oftentimes be willing to help others, and would very rarely be the one to stab a friend in the back. Tai Ta looked as if he had not yet made a decision and seemed to be hesitant. After nervously squirming where he stood for a good while, he finally steeled himself and bit his lips. Changyang Shangtian, Ming Dong, it's not convenient to say it here, let's go up the mountains first. All right. Without hesitation, Jian Chen and Ming Dong stood up to follow Tai Ta up a hillside path. It was only after they had walked several kilometers into the depths of the mountains that they stopped. Tai Ta, just what in the world happened for you to come so far from your village? Ming Dong asked out of curiosity. Tai Ta was in an extremely worried state with his eyebrows pinched together in deep worry. Carefully looking left and then right with a prudent expression, he looked to see if anyone was around before letting out a sigh in relief. After a slight moment of hesitation, he asked Jian Chen a nervous question, Changyang Shangtian. What color do you think blood is in humans? Do I even need to answer? Of course it's red. Why would you ask that? Jian Chen asked in confusion. Aside from red, is there any other colors? Tai Ta pressed on. Yes, but only magical beasts would have such colors. Jian Chen replied. Then would those blood colors be likely to appear within humanity? Tai Ta was growing even more anxious by this point. Ming Dong replied with himself as soon as Tai Ta asked. What? Of course not, or at least, not that I've ever heard. Then, Ming Dong realized something strange. Amazed, he looked back at Tai Ta and asked, Tai Ta, why would you ask me such a bizarre question unless... Jian Chen was becoming aware of the situation and let out an incredulous expression as well. Clutching at his head in pain, Tai Ta's eyebrows furrowed even deeper together with concern. Changyang Shangtian, Ming Dong, I have said my secret. You can't tell this to anyone else, not even my parents know about this secret. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both nodded their heads together in solidarity. You too have guessed it already. My blood is not at all red in color, it has the color of what one might expect to find in a magical beast. Combined with my physique, do you think that I might not be even human? Tai Ta spoke in anguish. Ming Dong and Jian Chen looked at each other for a moment with startled eyes between the two. Tai Ta's words were like a clap of thunder to their minds and stunned them into an unsteady state for a decent amount of time. Even a 3-year-old would be able to answer with confidence what blood color a human had. It was without a doubt red without any chance of it being something else. Whatever other color appeared in a magical beast was never to be seen in a human before. Impossible, how could the blood of a human be any other color but red? Tai Ta, are you sure you saw it right? Perhaps you didn't see it clearly enough. After the shock wore off, Ming Dong cried out in utter disbelief. I couldn't have. I am a coarse person, but even I have sharp enough eyes to see my own blood. If you don't believe me, then cut my arm and see for yourself. Tai Ta replied in anguish. The color of his blood had clearly been tormenting him something fierce and made him believe he was some sort of monster. Ming Dong didn't hesitate to grab a nearby leaf that was falling to the ground. With a sudden movement of his hand, the leaf immediately sliced over Tai Ta's dark-skinned arms, but the skin remained unbroken. Dumbfounded, Ming Dong's mouth dropped open. Well, fuck me if that's true. How is your skin so thick? Although Ming Dong had used a single tree leaf, it contained a large amount of Saint force that made it incomparably sharper than an iron sword. If such a sharp weapon wasn't able to cut Tai Ta's arm, that could only mean his body was far stronger than that. Even Jian Chen was stunned by Tai Ta's physique. While he knew since a long time ago that Tai Ta's physical strength was extremely strong, he didn't think that it would reach such an obscenely high level. Normally when I come across some prey like the wild animals, they wouldn't be able to harm me no matter how much they bite. Tai Ta looked rather pleased at that. Let me try again. Ming Dong was determined to try again. With another leaf, he began to pour a lot of Saint force into the leaf before trying to cut Tai Ta's arm once more. This time the cut had more strength put into it than before, but even then, only the superficial part of the skin was broken. Not a single droplet of blood could be seen coming from it. Your skin is far too thick. It's practically the same level of a Class 5 magical beast. If I don't have my saint weapon, then I doubt I'd be able to see you spill blood. Ming Dong exclaimed in shock. Let me try then. Jianshan took Tai Ta's arm into his hand, and allowed a bit of the azure and violet sword chi to emanate from his fingertip. He then gently sliced his skin. In front of the sword chi of the azure and violet sword spirits, Tai Ta's tremendously strong body was like a piece of tofu. Without any wasted effort, his skin revealed a cut, and golden blood immediately began to spill from it. Seeing the golden blood gushing out, Jian Shen and Ming Dong were both dumbfounded. The both of them could only look at the blood with expressions of utter shock. Tai Ta's blood was indeed not red but golden. Chapter 536, Golden Blood, 3. Seeing the blood slowly flow from his arm, Tai Ta sighed, Changyang Xiangtian, take a look. Is my blood not red? How did this happen? Jianshan whispered with a stunned voice. Tai Ta's blood being a golden color was far too strange to even imagine. Jianshan, look. His blood is even glowing. Ming Dong suddenly pointed at Tai Ta's arm with a finger and wide-open eyes. Looking back at Tai Ta's arm, Jianshan could see that the golden blood dripping down Tai Ta's arm was indeed shining. If not for the fact that they were in a relatively dim place, this glow would have been very difficult to discover. Jianshan could only feel even more shock at this point. Not only was Tai Ta's blood golden, it also had a golden glow to it. Such a sight like this was completely unheard of and unprecedented. Tai Ta, how did your blood become like this? Jianshan asked in shock. I don't know either. Tai Ta looked helpless. He too was completely confused on how his blood had become golden in color. According to my knowledge, the blood of magical beasts is the only blood that can have variations in color. Humanity has never had any other color but red for their blood. This is simply too unbelievable to see. Tai Ta's blood is golden. Ming Dong exclaimed. Jianshan, look at my body and how dark-skinned I am. Would you say I'm a human, a magical beast, or even a monstrosity? Tai Ta looked to Jianshan with a face of dread and terror. He was extremely afraid of what he could possibly be. You should be fine. Jianshan's eyes narrowed together as he spoke. Whatever was happening to Tai Ta was simply too bizarre to understand. After a while, Jianshan asked, Tai Ta, did you eat anything strange in the past? Thinking for a moment, Tai Ta shook his head, no. I've only ate the standard fare, whether that is the meat of the wild animals or the food from the academy. Then you never ate any strange fruit or strange plant either? Ming Dong asked. None, I've never ate anything like that. Tia Ta shook his head again. Then when did you realize that your blood was golden? Did you feel some sort of strange sensation or something different in your body at any time? Jianshan persisted. Tai Ta paused to think. One day in Kargath Academy, I was hunting for magical beasts by myself when I came across a strong one by accident. When it drew blood, I realized at that moment that my blood had become golden. With a questioning murmur to himself, Jianshan spoke, how queer. When we came across the azure wolves in the forest, I clearly remember your blood still being red. How could it have suddenly become golden? Jianshan's eyebrows furrowed together in deep thought before suddenly thinking of something. Tai Ta, from the day I left Kargath Academy to the day you realized that your blood became golden, did you realize your body was undergoing any type of transformation? None. Everything was normal. It's only after I formed my saint weapon that I felt my strength increase every day. Even if I did not cultivate, it would increase without stopping. Furthermore, my body grew taller as well, just look at how tall I am now. As he was speaking, Tai Ta seemed to have remembered something and piped up, ah. I remember that while I was condensing my saint force to form my saint weapon, I felt my entire body grow extremely hot. Practically every part of it felt as if there was a ball of fire within my body. Do you think that's the reason? Jianghu grew silent as he couldn't help but think about when he had condensed his own saint weapon. At that time, the azure and violet light had appeared all of a sudden within his dantian. Tai Ta had felt an unbelievable wave of heat through his body. This was extremely unusual since an ordinary person materializing their saint weapon would only feel their strength increase and not any other symptom. It would appear that the problem is most likely because of that. Jianghu muttered. Where was the problem? Tai Ta's eyes lit up as he studied Jianghu with an anxious, nervous face. Hesitating, Jianghu replied, "It should be from the moment you made your saint weapon. Some sort of mutation happened in your body at that time. However, that's just my guess since I'm not clear on just what could possibly turn your blood golden." Left with no clear answer still, Tai Ta scratched at his head in vexation. Distressed, he asked, "Just what in the world is happening? If this continues, do you think I'll become some sort of monster?" Tai Ta, you needn't worry. Your blood is indeed unique. According to what I know, the blood of some magical beasts is quite special. Some don't even have golden blood. With blood like yours, this may be a blessing in disguise instead of misfortune. Ming Dong comforted him. But, Tai Ta clearly did not seem to accept that reply. There's no buts about it. Ming Dong is right. This is a blessing and not a misfortune that cannot be avoided. Tai Ta, you don't have to be so vexed. It will do nothing to solve your problem. Instead, you should accept the fact and stop spending your time worrying about it. Jianghu sternly spoke. Having said that, he couldn't help but think back to the bitter experiences he once had. At that time he didn't know about the secrets of the azure and violet sword spirits, nor why they had taken up residence within his dantian. Despite being so vexed about them, they had not been a source of calamity for him. Instead, he had profited from them with plenty of good results. Fine then. I won't worry so much about it anymore. Who cares if I'm a human or monster? Even if I become one, then I'll just live my days in a place without humans. With the comforting of Jianghu and Ming Dong, Tai Ta finally decided to accept his predicament. That's the spirit, just learn to accept it. You fear your golden blood, but it might be a symbol of your innate uniqueness. Don't forget that you have a natural blessing. Jianghu laughed as he took out a towel from his space ring to wipe away the blood on Tai Ta's arm. When the towel wiped away the blood, Tai Ta's arm was without any traces of the injury as if it had never happened. Your injury has already healed, what a powerful recovery rate. Jianghu cried out in shock. Tai Ta laughed, my body heals quickly even after being injured. Could this be the magic of your golden blood? Ming Dong was astonished as well. Jianghu waved his hand in resignation, forget it, there's no point in talking about it anymore. No matter how much we try to find an answer, we'll only be making blind guesses as things stand. Tai Ta, it's been years since we last met, let me see just how much you've improved since then. Tai Ta had finally cracked open a smile at his words. I haven't slacked off at all these past few years. Every day I've cultivated so that even now, I'm a middle great saint master. Changyang Shangtian, how's your strength now? You may have beaten me when we were in Kargath Academy, but who knows whether or not you'll beat me today. It was between laughter and tears that Ming Dong looked at Tai Ta. Tai Ta, you look down too much on Jianghu. Even heaven saint masters find themselves dying at Jianghu's hand. As a great saint master, Jianghu could move a single finger to defeat you. Turning pale with fright, Tai Ta cried out, what? Even heaven saint masters died because of him? Is that really true? Forget it then. We're not fighting. There's no way I'll fight with you. Frantically, Tai Ta shook his hands and stared at Jianghu as if he was the true monster. Laughing, Jianghu was about to say something when Ming Dong suddenly piped up first. Tai Ta, I've heard from Jianghu that you're unnaturally strong. Why not fight with me then? The naturally straightforward Tai Ta was not modest this time as he inquired, my strength is quite strong, yes. Can you take it? What if I hurt you somehow? Unable to laugh or cry, Ming Dong replied, if you can injure me, I'll ram my head into the tree and kill myself. No, 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 that won't do. You're the brother of Changyang Shangtian and the brother of mine by extension. How could I possibly allow you to do such a thing? Let us not fight and wait for another opportunity then. Tai Ta didn't realize the meaning behind Ming Dong's words, so they had scared him greatly. Ming Dong's leg staggered so violently that he nearly fell to the ground. Smiling hollowly, he said to Jian Chen. Your brother here is, he's too naive. Jian Chen couldn't help but smile. Tai Ta was truly a simplistic thinker and wouldn't think too much on such problems like these. Tai Ta, you shouldn't underestimate Ming Dong. He already stands at the pinnacle of the realm of Earth Saint Masters. There is only a string's width of a step before he becomes a Heaven Saint Master, but even a Heaven Saint Master wouldn't be able to easily harm him. You needn't worry about this. Jian Chen spoke to Tai Ta. Ah? That can't be, even Ming Dong is that strong? How can you two be so amazing? I already thought that I was strong enough, but even now, you two are even stronger than I am. Tai Ta's self-confidence had taken a tremendous setback after that. Ming Dong pulled back at his sleeves with a smile. Tai Ta, you can rest assured now. Come, fight me without holding back. If I as a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master am injured by a great Saint Master, then I, Ming Dong, won't be able to continue my life in this Tian Yuan continent anymore. Fine then. Since you're already an Earth Saint Master, I shouldn't be able to harm you. Prepare yourself then, I'll start now. Tai Ta stood up. He was serious now. With a crackling sound from both of his giant fists, he immediately struck at Ming Dong's chest with the slight booming sound of thunder following close behind. Ming Dong stood there without a proper stance, but his palms were filled with the wind element energy. Becoming a blur, his hands flew up to his chest to block Tai Ta's fist. Bang! When the palm and fist collided, there was a deep muffled sound as if the sound of thunder could be heard echoing through the air, forcing the hearts of anyone that heard it to skip a beat. Jian Chen was slightly startled. Staring in bewilderment at Tai Ta, he could sense that Tai Ta's fist had a strength that was far beyond what was to be expected. When Tai Ta's fist impacted against Ming Dong's palm, there had been a thunderous sound that penetrated the bones and organs with enough force to rupture them. After the vibrational force from the palm and fist subsided, Tai Ta staggered back a few steps. Ming Dong's body shook violently for a moment, but instead of staggering back, his feet dug deeper and deeper into the ground. There was a startled expression on Ming Dong's face as well as he exclaimed, "What force?" No wonder Jian Chen said you are naturally blessed. Seeing that Ming Dong was still standing there, Tai Ta had a look of worship on his face. Brother Ming Dong, you're truly amazing. My fist wasn't able to even knock you back. Then I'll go with my full power then, be careful now. Chapter 537, Xiao family. A smile remained on Ming Dong's face. Come then. I, Ming Dong, will accept your strike, so go all out without reserve. Yahoo! Tai Ta roared as he began to build up power in one of his fists to strike at Ming Dong. The first fist had already given him a decent understanding of just how large of a gap there was between he and Ming Dong. So this next fist would contain his entire strength without holding back. As soon as Tai Ta's fist lashed out, the sound of muffled thunder appeared again. Just from the sight alone, one could tell that this punch was far stronger than the previous one, with thunder breaking out continuously. The amazement in Jian Chen's eyes had grown even more noticeable as he observed Tai Ta. This ordinary-looking punch from Tai Ta seemed as if it carried some sort of secret. A secret capable of making the sounds of thunder follow his fist while only being a great Saint Master. Ming Dong could sense the abnormality of Tai Ta's supposedly normal punch as well. His fists began to gather even more of the wind element into a thin layer of cyan light around his palms. With lightning-fast speed he protected his body by blocking Tai Ta's dreadful punch. Crack! Another muffled sound similar to a clap of thunder could be heard with a force that seemed to penetrate even the human body. It allowed both Jian Chen and Ming Dong to feel their hearts forcibly skipping a beat. This time, Ming Dong was unable to maintain his mountain-like position like before. His body began to shake violently as his feet slid back several steps, leaving an impression each time he staggered back. The backlash Tai Ta had received was equally strong. His feet involuntarily staggered back several meters before finally stopping. However, when he saw that Ming Dong remained unharmed, he couldn't help but feel more admiration for him. With a low voice, he said, "Brother Ming Dong, you're really amazing. Even with my full strength, I accomplished nothing against you." But Ming Dong couldn't feel the same happiness at all. Gently shaking his arm to get rid of the numbness, he looked strangely at Tai Ta before asking seriously, "Tai Ta, you didn't use a battle skill or anything when you punched me, correct?" Jian Chen looked seriously at Tai Ta as well. Those two strikes had been unusual. Not only did they release a strange sound after striking, but at the moment of impact between the two hands, there was a resultant explosion that had been enough to shock the internal organs of both participants. Battle skill? Not at all, I've never learned one before. Both of my fists just now were just from my own strength. Tai Ta smiled. Tai Ta, when you punch, do you feel anything out of the ordinary? Jian Chen seriously questioned. No. Everything seems normal, Changyang Shangtian, why do you ask? Tai Ta was utterly confused on why Jian Chen had been so questioning. Seeing the vacant look on Tai Ta's face, Jian Chen gave up asking more. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get any answers even if he did, but the fists Tai Ta revealed just now left a huge question in his mind. Jian Chen didn't know just how a punch from Tai Ta could have such a strange sound that could also affect even his internal organs. Jian Chen, this is probably because of the golden blood in Tai Ta. That golden blood he has in him is really too strange, but it's all the more proof that Tai Ta is not an ordinary person. Ming Dong spoke. Thinking to himself, Jian Chen found there was Ming Dong a point to his words and gave up questioning it any longer. Let's go back then. Okay, we'll head back then. But you two have to keep this secret of mine between us three. Tai Ta pleaded with the two. Don't worry, we won't say a word. Jian Chen promised. Afterward, the three men began to walk back to the village. As soon as they arrived, they could see several dozen figures disputing with the weapon-wielding villagers. Upon seeing the dozen distinctly dressed figures, Tai Ta's eyes seemed as if they would spit fire with anger. Howling, he cried, "Those bastards came again. It seems like the lesson I taught them last time wasn't enough." With that, Tai Ta began to dash off toward the group. Tai Ta has returned, he's returned, bro giant has come back. Come quickly and beat these bastards up, kid, you've returned. Quickly throw these guys out. As soon as they saw Tai Ta return, every single villager looked as if a heavy weight had been lifted from their shoulders. They knew just how strong Tai Ta was, and as long as he was here, then those men would have no leg to stand on. When the distinctly dressed figures saw Tai Ta approach, their faces were startled and frightened because of him. However, as if a sudden thought had occurred to them, a confident smile appeared on their faces. Tai Ta quickly came to a stop in front of the villagers with a furious scowl aimed at the 10 newcomers. You annoying guys came back again? Did you not get beat up enough by me? Tai Ta, you're too savage. We are men from the Xiao family. Our young master has already become a disciple of the Black Wind sect, and the personal disciple of the sect master himself. With his illustrious standing, you are nothing more than a blade of grass to him. How could you compete with us? If you continue to be so unbridled like this, then you'll be causing trouble for the entire village. One of the youths spoke. As if I gave a shit who you are. Black Wind sect? I'm not afraid of them. Don't think that you'll be able to leave with her in hand. If you don't leave now, in fact, I'll make sure to use my fists to drive you out. With that, Tai Ta's knuckles began to crack in anger because of the group in front of him. Tai Ta, you can't even tell good from bad. The fact that our young master has taken favor to someone from your village should be a blessing, but you don't even cherish that fact. Don't you know just how many blue-blooded daughters would love to marry our young master within the Jessen kingdom? A blue-robed youngster spoke in a serious manner. If not for the fact that he had eaten his fair share of losses to Tai Ta, he wouldn't have bothered to waste so much time trying to squabble with him. At that moment, Jian Chen and Ming Dong caught up. Looking casually over to the group of well-dressed individuals, he asked, Tai Ta, what's going on? Furiously, Tai Ta explained, the Xiao family saw that Sister Xiao Yu was quite pretty, and want to kidnap her to wed her to the young master of the Xiao family. They've tried multiple times already, but I've managed to beat them back each time. However, it's always been a short interval between each attempt. How annoying. The dozen men from the Xiao family could see that Jian Chen and Ming Dong were by no means ordinary figures due to their robes and presence. While they were aware that the two could be from an influential family, the men did not see the two as a serious threat at all. With the young master becoming a disciple of the sect master of the Black Wind sect, their family position within the kingdom would rise with the tide, making them a family that few would offend. Who are you two? This is a matter between them and the Xiao family. Be sensitive and get lost. To offend our Xiao family is to offend the Black Wind Gate, a result that neither of you two would be able to afford. A 30-year-old young man pointed a finger at the two with a domineering presence and an unbridled voice. Do you want to die? Jian Chen's and Ming Dong's face darkened for a moment before Ming Dong cried out. An azure light streaked past as he instantly flew toward the one that spoke, and slapped him across the face with his palm. Pa! A clear resounding slapping sound could be heard before the young man was sent flying by Ming Dong's slap. Ruthlessly tumbling to the ground 3 meters away, he staggered back up with a face that was dripping with blood. Spitting out several bloody pieces of his teeth, the young man venomously glared at Ming Dong. As he opened his mouth to speak, the pain from the slap he received was far too much for him to withstand, forcing him to wince and close his mouth. What tool are you to think you can speak to us like that? Ming Dong glared in disdain at the youth. Ming Dong's powerful slap subdued everyone there. Regardless whether they were the men from the Xiao family or the people from the village. None of them could speak due to shock. The villagers all knew just how strong the Xiao family was in their hearts. With Ming Dong harming one of them by slapping them in the face, they were all worried about what the Xiao family would do in retaliation. The men from the Xiao family were astonished that Ming Dong would do such a thing. However. We're from the Xiao family. The young master of our Xiao family is the disciple of the Black Wind sect master. Do you really wish to offend our Xiao family and taste the consequence? One of the youths cried out with fear and shock at Ming Dong. I've never heard of the Xiao family or whatever it is. If your entire group wishes to live, then hurry up and get lost. Never come back to this place, otherwise even if I forgive you, my brother will not do the same. Ming Dong icily smiled. The men from the Xiao family were furious, but they could not speak even a word. Ming Dong's action of hurting one of their comrades had sent fear into their hearts. They knew that this youth was far stronger than Tai Ta and far more vicious as well. He wasn't willing to hold back in his strength at all. We're leaving. The men from the Xiao family didn't feel like staying here any longer and left the village with the injured member held high. Seeing their retreating figures, one of the elders let out a concerned murmur. We've definitely angered them this time. The Xiao family is extremely strong. If they decide to take revenge, then our village will be in trouble. Uncle, you needn't worry. If the Xiao family truly does dare come back, I will make sure to help you settle the problem. Jian Chen smiled with a look of disdain for the Xiao family in his eyes. Although he had never heard of the Xiao family, he had indeed heard of the Black Wind sect. They were one of the powers of the Jessen kingdom, but they were far inferior to the Huayan sect. To feel so empowered by having their young master accepted as a disciple was a clear indicator of their actual strength. My two lords, thank you for resolving my problem. Xiao, you cannot thank you two enough. At that moment, a delicate voice could be heard from behind them. Jian Chen and Ming Dong turned around by instinct only to see a rather pretty young woman who looked to be around 18 years old. Her pretty face contained a slight tenderness. Chapter 538, Leaving for the Xiao family. Observing the delicate and sincere face of Qiu Yi, Ming Dong let out a mischievous laugh. So you're Qiu Yi. How pretty. It's no wonder that the men from the Xiao family are so willing to come here multiple times to wed you to their young master or something. Despite growing up in a small mountain village, Qiu Yi had a face that even most aristocratic daughters would envy. It could not really compete with a national beauty, but if she were to set foot in the open world, she certainly would be considered a rather rare type of beauty. Qiu Ye's face reddened in shyness as she listened to Ming Dong compliment her. "Brother Ming Dong, don't bully my sister Qiu Yi, alright? Otherwise, even if I can't beat you, I still won't forgive you." Tai Ta grumbled at Ming Dong. He was very protective of Qiu Yu. Ming Dong strangely glanced at Tai Ta with a mischievous smile. "Tai Ta, I only gave her 2 small compliments and you're already so tense. Don't tell me you like little Qiu Yu." Tai Ta's face reddened in embarrassment. Stuttering, he spoke, "And no. Qiu Yu is by far too pretty of a woman. How could a coarse person like me fit with her?" Ming Dong continued to strangely stare at Tai Ta with an exaggerated smile. "I was only joking with you at first, but I didn't think that I'd actually hit the nail on the head. Brother Tai Ta, love is something that should be said out loud, don't you know? With you stifling it within your own heart, just how could you win the affection of a woman's heart?" Ming Dong's words caused Tai Ta's ears to turn bright red. After shuffling around for what seemed like half the day, Tai Ta finally managed to speak. "Brother Ming Dong, don't make fun of me here, okay? I can't say anything else." Ming Dong gave a hearty laugh at this. He glanced at Xiao Yu a couple times. He could see that the barely 18-year-old Xiao Yu had turned so shy because of Ming Dong and Tai Ta's conversation that her head was threatening to bury itself into her chest. At this display, Jian Chen and Ming Dong gave a knowing look to each other. With their eyesight, it was natural to see that there was a good opinion of each other between Tai Ta and Xiao Yu. However, what they couldn't believe was that a woman that had grown up to be so pretty had fallen in love with the mountain that was Tai Ta. This giant here is our village's most competent, most successful, and most amazing person. Every day he is able to hunt and bring home a wild animal for the village. My Qiu Yu would go with Tai Ta, but she is also the treasure of my family. For the rest of this life of mine, I would never be able to have anything as precious as her." A plain but sincere middle-aged woman laughed. She was Qiu Yu's mother. "Qiu Yu is the most beautiful lass in our village. Many of the other villagers have expressed their desire to marry her, but none of them have ever been as competent as Tai Ta. In my opinion, out of this entire village, only Tai Ta has the ability to gain this treasure." An elderly man spoke with a gravelly voice. In these past few years, Tai Ta would go to the mountains every day and hunt for a wild beast before splitting it with everyone in the village. This had earned him the love and respect from everyone in the village to a very deep level. Listening to the praises of the villagers, Tai Ta could only shake his head modestly and smile. "Uncle, Auntie, I am nowhere as good as you say I am." A middle-aged woman with a wrinkly appearance could no longer handle the cheerful discussion about Tai Ta and Xiao Yu any longer. She began to impatiently speak. Aya, stop it with these talks. The most important matter is how are we going to deal with the Xiao family now? This isn't like before where they were slightly injured. They definitely won't let us go this time. I bet that the next time they come, it won't be with a small party of weak messengers." "That's right. We shouldn't be discussing this at all. We should be making plans to deal with the Xiao family. Although Tai Ta can fight, he won't be able to fight against all of them. Not only that, but I'm sure that the next group from their family will be filled with highly skilled martial artists." A man with a metal hoe slung over his shoulders grimly spoke with concern shown all over his face. In this village, Tai Ta was the strongest. While there were some others that cultivated, they were no stronger than a great saint at most. The rest of the villagers were ordinary commoners so weak that they would be toppled by the Xiao family if the two sides fought. Seeing the worry on everyone's faces, Tai Ta couldn't help but try to comfort them all. "Uncle, Auntie, you all don't need to worry. I will protect the village for sure. No matter how many people come, I will knock them all back." Jian Shen laughed as he said, "Tai Ta, this problem isn't as bad as you think it is. Villagers, you may all rest assured. Since this problem was caused by me, it would only be natural that I help you resolve it. Jian Chen's words had caused many of the villagers' faces to light up, prompting one of the middle-aged men to ask in a hurry, "My lord, is what you say true? Will you truly be able to resolve this problem?" From Jian Chen and Ming Dong's robes, the villagers could see that they were no ordinary people. They just had to have some sort of power behind them. When they heard that Jian Chen would personally settle this giant issue with the Xiao family, the villagers felt as if they had managed to grab a hold of that final strand of straw that anchored them to life. Although the Xiao family was of no major importance in the Jessen kingdom, in such a small village like this, they were an unbelievable might that could not be defended against. Jian Chen smiled and nodded in a friendly manner. Despite the people in front of him being the lowest of the low in terms of social hierarchy, Jian Chen treated each and every single one of them as equals without arrogance. Everyone may rest assured. I will take care of this issue with the Xiao family and guarantee that they will never cause a commotion for the village again. Jian Chen confidently spoke. Jian Chen's words elicited an explosion of joyous shouts. Everyone's faces revealed smiles of great joy. Although the Xiao family had only sought Xiao Yu and not the entirety of the village, the villagers felt extremely close with one another due to the limited numbers they had. As a solidified front, whenever one family had troubles, the entire village also had troubles. When Xiao Yu had came across this problem, everyone else felt quite anxious about it. There's no time to lose then. We'll head straight for the Xiao family and resolve this straight away. The sooner we do so, the sooner everyone may rest in peace. Ming Dong, Tai Ta, let us depart. Jian Chen spoke. With a joyful expression, Tai Ta responded, all right. In any case, you two are much stronger than I am. With you two around, I doubt that the Xiao family would dare try to be excessive with us. Excessive? Ming Dong couldn't help but smile in contempt. Who do you think my brother is? To have him personally come to the Xiao family is already giving them face. Just what right does the Xiao family have to dare be excessive to him? They wouldn't even have time to try and beg for our favor. After the plans were made, Jian Chen and the other two left the village and rushed to the Xiao family. The Xiao family was a clan that had been established only a few dozen years ago. Situated within the first-class city known as Huangga City, they were one of the three biggest powers there and were consequently a short distance away from the village. As soon as the three exited the mountains, Jian Chen carried Ming Dong and Tai Ta into the air toward Huangga City. Whoa, Jian Chen, you're really amazing if you can fly. Can all Heaven Saint Masters fly through the sky like this? The muffled voice of Tai Ta could be heard. In his voice, the delight from flying for the very first time could be heard. Zooming through the sky at a tremendous speed, they quickly traveled hundreds of kilometers away from the village in the direction of the city. Using the wind element to cover Ming Dong and Tai Ta's body, Jian Chen guided them all straight to Huangga City. Then locating the Xiao family's location on a map, they touched down where the clan should be living. Jian Chen and the other two descended into the empty space of the Xiao family's courtyards with the guards of the family instantly noticing their arrival. Even the observers from the outside of the compound had seen them descend from the sky, causing a tremendous clamor to appear. News that a Heaven Saint Masters had graced their city with their presence had subsequently spread like wildfire. Several middle-aged men came running out of the compound as soon as they saw Jian Chen, Ming Dong, and Tai Ta descend to their courtyard. Staring at the three in astonishment, they immediately bent their backs in respect. One of the men among their group respectfully yelled out, "This one is the captain of the guards for the Xiao family. We welcome your presence into our home." Jian Chen's eyes calmly swept over the soldiers with an expressionless face. "Call out the head of the Xiao family to greet us." "Yes, this one will notify him straight away. If my lords would please relocate themselves to the halls to rest while I notify the master." The guard nodded his head in an attempt to curry favor. This was the very first time he had ever gotten close to such an individual like a Heaven Saint Master. He was so terrified of saying the wrong thing that he was afraid to confirm their identities. "There's no need. The person I am looking for should be here." Jian Chen calmly responded while looking straight ahead. A group of people could be seen hurrying over. There were about 20 to the group, both young and old. At the very front was a 40-year-old middle-aged man. When the group saw Jian Chen and the other two, they looked at them with suspicion. Everyone had been called to hurry on over when they heard that several Heaven Saint Masters had touched down in the Xiao family's compound. However, they couldn't help but question when they saw their faces. Jian Chen and the other two were far too young. It was not at all the appearance a Heaven Saint Master would have. Despite the suspicion in their minds, they didn't dare judge them just by looks. A Heaven Saint Master was still an individual their family could hardly afford to offend. Bowing down to the three men, the middle-aged man that stood at the group respectfully said, "Honored Heaven Saint Masters, this one is the head of the Xiao family, Xiao Yun. I welcome the lords to my Xiao family, and give thanks to the honor you have given us by visiting." Chapter 539. Tai Tai enters the party. There is no need for Lord Xiao to be so courteous. This one is Changyang Shangtian. I came here today to discuss business with the House of Xiao. Jian Chen spoke in a moderate manner. However, when the name, Changyang Shangtian, was heard, everyone from the Xiao family was stunned. Staring in disbelief at the young but handsome face of Jian Chen, their eyes simply couldn't believe it. If this one may ask, are you possibly the very same Changyang Shangtian as the fourth master of the Changyang clan? The head of the Xiao family's voice trembled as he inquired. The name Changyang Shangtian was equivalent to a clap of thunder to his ears. It was a very famous name in the Jessan kingdom. Not only was he a genius chosen by the heavens, he also became a Heaven Saint Master just after entering his 20s, and he became an imperial protector for the kingdom, a position that even the king himself would not be able to outshine. That is indeed this one, Jian Chen declared. The faces of even the highest-ranking members of the Xiao family immediately changed. Bowing deeply to the ground, they called out, "We pay our respects to the imperial protector." At this, there were fluctuations to the voices of the men from their respect and admiration. For the imperial protector of the Jessan kingdom to suddenly appear within their home, it was a great honor to the House of Xiao. But what made them worried was that the imperial protector had come out of the blue, meaning that it was unknown whether he would bring fortune or misfortune. "Respectful and honored imperial protector, please come and take a seat within our halls. Allow the Xiao family to play host to the best of our abilities." The head of the Xiao family respectfully but nervously spoke, "That won't be necessary. Lord Xiao, this one has come to deal with something that requires a discussion. After it is resolved, this one will be leaving." Jian Chen replied. "Whatever is the command of the honored imperial protector, our Xiao family will do our best to fulfill your endeavors. To accomplish such a task would be a great honor to my family. Even 10,000 deaths would not be enough to stop the entirety of the House of Xiao." The head fawned without even bothering to hide his attempt to curry favor. Previously, if one were to inquire which party was the strongest within the Jessan kingdom, it would without a doubt the Huayun sect besides the royal family. However, after the failed invasion of the Jessan kingdom by the Four Kingdoms, the situation had drastically changed. At the current moment, the Changyang clan held the title of the strongest, whereas the Huayun sect and the royal family couldn't even compare. Even if the 500,000-strong elite soldiers from the Qinhuang kingdom were to be excluded from the garrison troops at Lore City, the Changyang clan had far more Heaven Saint Masters tucked away within it than the entirety of the Jessan kingdom at its golden age. The fact that a dozen or so Heaven Saint Masters defeated the ones from the Heavenly Eagle kingdom was no secret either. It would be no exaggeration to say that the Changyang clan had already eclipsed the royal family as the strongest faction. Even the Huayun sect could not compare with its 3 Heaven Saint Masters. From the Changyang clan, the fourth master, Changyang Shangtian, played a crucial and very influential role. When the head of the Xiao family heard the name that belonged to the young imperial protector of the kingdom, he suddenly felt a little terrified. At the same time, he felt that this would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to seize the tree that was Changyang Shangtian and climb to the sky. Through this, the Xiao family would have nothing to worry about and could survey the entire Jessan kingdom without fear. With a hasty, amiable face, the head began to try his best to show the desire he felt for his family to help the Changyang clan. However, Jian Chen was not moved by the man's friendly demeanor. With a calm voice, he said, "Lord Xiao, a few men of yours have been making trouble for a woman in my brother's village as of late. I hope that you will discipline the parties involved. I would hate to have to come back here in the future, and in the case that I do not say that I am heartless." Jian Chen's voice grew progressively colder as he spoke. The head of the Xiao family along with the other high-ranking members all grew startled. Already their faces grew ruinous as sweat began to pool on their foreheads. It was with incomparable terror that the head of the Xiao family knelt on his knees. He said with a quaking voice, "I beg the honored imperial protector to quell his anger. A misunderstanding has occurred because of my inability to discipline my family. I, Xiao Yun, will strictly punish those few men and return a satisfactory compensation to the imperial protector. This slight from my family will not be repeated. I hope you will do as you say. I will not look into the matters of the past, but there better not be a next time." Jian Chen icily replied. "There won't be a next time, I can guarantee it." Hua Yun hurried to respond with terror. He was already keenly clear that if the fourth master of the Changyang clan were to act against his Xiao family, then even the Black Wind sect they had tried so hard to become friends with would be helpless to do a thing for them. Even the Huayun sect, which was many times stronger than the Black Wind sect, would be unable to go against the Changyang clan. Such an act was unthinkable for any weaker sect like the Black Wind. "Go and apologize to the villagers in person." Jian Chen spoke. Yes. I will do as instructed straight away." The man nervously bobbed his head up and down without daring to speak back. Seeing that an agreement had been made, Jian Chen nodded his head in satisfaction. Looking back to Tai Ta, he asked, "Tai Ta, are you happy with how this problem has been solved?" "Ha ha ha, very satisfied. Changyang Shangtian, you really do have a great face. I didn't think that you would be able to solve this problem so easily." Tai Ta happily laughed. The fact that the problem with the Xiao family had been resolved with barely any energy made him feel very cheerful. "Now that we've concluded this business here, let's return." With that, Jian Chen began to will the wind element to carry Ming Dong and Tai Ta up into the air. Within several seconds, the three of them disappeared into the horizon. The entire Xiao family watched Jian Chen and the other two fly away. They all let out sighs of relief when they could no longer see the three. Standing there with some lingering fear, everyone's faces were drenched with sweat. Letting out a sigh to release the tension he felt, Xiao Yun's facial expression hardened as he looked at the other power-wielding members of the family. He ordered, "I want you all to search for the ones who dare defend the fourth master of the Changyang clan at once. Search them out, and do not let them off." "Yes, my lord." Everyone obeyed with equally serious expressions. They were all crystal clear that this case had given the entire family a giant heap of trouble, in fact, possibly a colossal amount of trouble. Jian Chen, Ming Dong, and Tai Ta all flew back to the mountains at a fast speed before finally touching down in a vegetation-filled area to walk the rest of the way to the village. After entering the village, Tai Ta excitedly told the villagers the happy news that Jian Chen had resolved their issues. It was with great joy that the entire village began to look at Jian Chen and Ming Dong with feelings of appreciation. For a good while, only thousands of words of appreciation were spoken for the two. After appeasing the villagers, Jian Chen was pulled into talking with the other villagers by Tai Ta while his mother went off to the kitchens to cook up plenty of dishes to receive Jian Chen and Ming Dong. "Hey, Changyang Shangtian. I recall that back in Kargath Academy, our strengths were pretty much the same. How is it after these few years, you've become so strong? Don't tell me that you have some sort of secret to make yourself stronger, teach me it then." Tai Ta gave a pleading look to Jian Chen. On the continent, practically every cultivator desired a way to increase their own strength. Even the honest and straightforward Tai Ta was no exception. With a hearty laugh, Jian Chen replied, "Of course there is a secret, but whether or not you can take the same road I do is unknown." "What secret is it? Tell me now." "I, Tai Ta, will definitely become as strong as you." Even the head of the Xiao family was bent into submission by you. "If I can become just as strong as you, then I could let the village live a generation filled with peace." Tai Ta spoke with excitement. This secret's nothing complicated, even I could tell you. Ming Dong spoke first. Tai Ta, if you wish to increase your strength in a flash, the best method would be to explore the outside world and gain some experience. If you waste your time in a village with your talent, it would only stifle your future. Not only is the outside world brilliant, it will teach you many things and is far stronger than the village here. Tai Ta pensively scratched his head. Really? I guess what you say has some sense to it. Back in Kargath Academy, Changyang Shangtian wasn't too far away from me in strength, but after that, he left Kargath Academy to wander the continent. After so many years, I didn't think that his strength would be so strong as it is now. Could the experience gained from traveling the Tianyuan continent be truly that great on gaining experience in a short period of time? Tai Ta, Ming Dong isn't lying. It's only when you go out and explore the outside world that your strength will improve quickly. You'll learn plenty of things that you would never have been able to experience or see. It's fortunate that I have a mercenary group that I'll be developing in the next 2 days. As of right now, I need some manpower to help out, so if you're willing, you might as well join my mercenary group. In the future we can all venture the continent and develop this mercenary group even more to become the strongest group in the continent. Jian Chen spoke. Tai Ta's eyes began to sparkle with some excitement as he spoke. Then wouldn't that mean we would be able to travel together? Of course. Jian Chen laughed. Great then. I, Tai Ta, will follow in whatever you guys will do. Wherever you go, I will go. Tai Ta responded with an excited face. After successfully inviting Tai Ta to join the Flame Mercenaries, Jian Chen revealed a happy smile. Tai Ta, then why don't you say your goodbyes to the village? Tomorrow, we'll go back to my home for a trip and then we'll introduce you to my friends. On the second morning, Jian Chen and the two gathered all the villagers to give their goodbyes before leaving the village. Outside the village entrance, the entire populace of the village convened to give one last farewell to Tai Ta. Brother Giant, you have to return as soon as possible. Xiao Yu's eyes glistened with reluctance as she looked up the giant body that was Tai Ta. Looking back at Xiao Yu, Tai Ta displayed a rather complicated look on his face. Waving his hands, he said, Sister Xiao Yu, I'll come back as soon as possible. Wait until then, and I'll be able to protect the entire village. If you don't dislike this coarse person that I am, then wait until I come back with some money. I'll come back and marry you. Tai Ta mustered up the rest of his courage to speak the last phrase, but after he finished speaking, his dark face turned red. Xiao Yu's entire body began to tremble as if she had been moved by his words. Wiping a tear from her eyes, she said, Brother Giant, Xiao Yu will await your return. Chapter 540, Leaving for the Blue Wind Kingdom. After leaving the village, Jian Chen, Ming Dong, and Tai Ta flew straight to Lore City. After about 2 hours of leisurely travel, they finally arrived back in Lore City, where they then walked straight to the Changyang clan. We are pay our respects to the fourth master. Soldiers saluted Jian Chen in the streets with respectful expressions when Jian Chen passed by. Waving his hand, Jian Chen commanded, Continue your patrol. Yes. The guards responded in unison before going back to their patrol. Changyang Shangtian, is this your home? It's huge. Tai Ta gasped in amazement as he scoured the place. Laughing, Jian Chen replied, Come on, let's go to where I live. I'll introduce you to some friends. Jian Chen then guided Tai Ta in the direction of a palace-styled building. He came across some servants and said, Go and notify Du Gufeng, Seniorin, and Yunjing to tell them to meet me here. Afterward, Jian Chen took Tai Ta into his own palace. As soon as they entered it, Tai Ta, who was ignorant of the outside world, was stunned by the layout and arrangement of the house. Every so often, he would stop to look around the place with an envious expression. Changyang Shangtian, this is your living space, right? Your family has to be very rich, I bet. Tai Ta sighed in admiration. Tai Ta looked like a farm boy coming into contact with city life for the very first time, prompting Ming Dong to say, Tai Ta, you don't need to be so envious. Wait until you become strong enough, you'll get this sort of treatment all of the time then. Tai Ta's eyes gained a determined light to them as he listened to Ming Dong. Well, I'll do my best to increase my strength. At this moment, De Gufeng, Yunzheng, and Senior An came walking in from the outside. As soon as they entered, Senior An's loud and rough voice could be heard. Jianchen, you're finally back. When will we be heading out? I'm a person that enjoys traveling the world. Staying around here every day is killing me. Smiling, Jianchen replied, have a seat everyone. I'll introduce you all to my friend. After everyone took a seat, Jianchen introduced Tai Ta to the group. After several words of conversation, they all began to grow relaxed. Jianchen thought for a moment before announcing, now that we're all here, we'll leave tomorrow morning. Go back and prepare yourselves. Whatever you need to buy, get it today. Make sure all of your preparations are finished today. We leave tomorrow? Changyang Shangtian, where are we going? Tai Ta asked. The Blue Wind Empire. After leaving his room, Jianchen went off to find his parents Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian so he could explain his departure. Although both Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian were reluctant to see their child depart from them again so soon, they knew that their child had already grown up to become a man who had plenty of things to do. There was no way Changyang Shangtian would be able to reside in their home his entire life, so the two parents clamped down on their thoughts and spoke nothing more. Looking for Xiao Tian and the others, Jianchen told them that he would be leaving first to develop his mercenary group. Xiao Tian and the others understood that there was no need for them to stay within the Changyang clan anymore, so they gave their farewells. The next morning, they would leave the Jessen kingdom to return to the Qinhuang kingdom. Jianchen even paid a visit to Kendall's wife and child, whom he promised to look after on Kendall's behalf. The matters of Sands had weighed heavily on Jianchen's mind, leaving him ashamed and guilty. Many a times he would try to find a way to heal or make up for the destroyed saint weapon of Sands, but as of yet, Jianchen had found no methods. The next morning, Jianchen held the sleeping tiger cub and gathered with Ming Dong, Tai Ta, De Gufeng, Yunzheng, and Senior An in the courtyard of the clan. All of the high-ranking members came out to send Jianchen off because of his high-ranking status in the clan. Right outside, several Class 3 magical beasts' mounts had been prepared by the guards. The beasts stood by the gates. Xiangtian, your silly second sister Mingyue left the family a long time ago without a trace. Despite all our attempts and efforts to try to find her, not even a single hint can be found. When you're traveling in the outside, please help find my girl. The second aunt Yu Fengyan implored Jianchen. For her daughter to disappear without a trace for so long, made her worry as a mother. Second aunt, rest assured, I will definitely try my best to find second sister. Jianchen seriously replied. His second sister Changyang Mingyue had cared for him in the past. So now that she had disappeared, even Jianchen worried for her. Bai Yuntian pulled Yu Yu's hand toward Jianchen. Xianger, with your strength, you could travel across the outside world and very few people capable of attacking you. Why not bring Yu Yu with you? She grew up in the Imperial Palace her entire life. The only other place she knows of is Kargath Academy. The outside world is still unknown to her, so it would be a good thing to relieve Yu Yu's boredom. Jianchen glanced at Yu Yu. She was wearing a short skirt today with a very casual amount of makeup. It gave her a rather heroic demeanor while she stood shyly by Bai Yuntian's side. Everyone could already see that she was prepared to travel long distances by the way she was dressed. Thinking for a moment, Jianchen felt that he wouldn't come across anything too dangerous while he was in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Combined with Yu Yu's preparations to travel, there was no way he could easily decline. At last, he finally agreed to the request with a smile. Very well. If Yu Yu wishes to travel outside to relieve her boredom, then why not let her travel with us? The princess' face revealed a happy smile at those words. Ever since she was young, the princess would rarely be able to see what the outside of the palace looked like. Bidding farewell to everyone from the clan, the party of 7 finally mounted their magical beasts and began to set off away from Lore City. After leaving Lore City, Jianchen continued to the area where the Eastern deity swords were garrisoned on the outskirts of Lore City. Upon seeing the three generals, Jianshen spoke a few words to them before leaving the camp on his mount. Qin Wuming and the other two generals watched Jianshen and his group ride away into the distance until they disappeared from view. Speaking up, Qin Wutian asked, "Father, now that the business in the Jessan kingdom is over and the imperial protector himself has left, when should we leave?" Qin Wuming just laughed, "Withdrawing our troops from here? That'll be hard. Quite hard indeed. Even if we rush to the Qinhuang kingdom, it'll take well over a year with the speed of our army. Although the space gate from the Dazhou kingdom is nearby, it would take a large amount of monster cores. In fact, it'd take an exorbitant price." "Does that mean our army will be garrisoned here then?" Qin Wujian asked. Qin Wuming nodded his head, "Correct. Originally, when His Majesty ordered 500,000 of our soldiers to go to the Jessan kingdom, he hadn't planned on their return. The Jessan kingdom is far too weak, but with the connection between the imperial protector and the royal family of the kingdom, we cannot afford to offend either side. Thus, His Majesty had decided to assist the Jessan kingdom while also helping out the imperial protector himself. With his talent, he will eventually become a saint ruler later in his life. So to rope in such an individual without enticement and investments would be foolhardy." "I see now. Father, then will the three of us remain here in this place as well?" Qin Wujian asked. Qin Wuming smiled, "Remaining behind here isn't too bad of a thing purse. A saint ruler is an extremely great entity. In their eyes, we heaven saint masters are just ants that aren't worth considering. As of right now, the imperial protector hasn't yet become a saint ruler, so this is a good chance for us to foster a good relationship with him. When he breaks through to become one, then we'd be able to have him help us with any trouble we might come across. Even more so, if we have the support of the imperial protector, then even the army wouldn't complain or be too impudent." "I understand now. This was all planned by His Majesty himself. Indeed, this is a good chance. If the imperial protector becomes a saint ruler and is willing to back us, then Father will even have the chance to be promoted to be the general of the kingdom's army." Qin Wutian spoke in realization. Qin Wuming nodded his head with a smile. "That is what it means to keep the fertile waters within your own fields. His Majesty is a very wise ruler that is capable of controlling everything within his hand. Even if he cannot, he will do his best to keep us in their good graces." On an official road that zigged and zagged, 7 magical beast mounts could be seen running at high speeds in a fluid motion. They left behind a trail of dust as they passed. "Changyang Xiangtian, how long will it take for us to reach the Blue Wind Kingdom at the rate we're going?" Yu asked Jianshen from his side. Thinking for a moment, Jianshen responded, "At this current rate, it should take 2 or so days before we arrive. It's not as if we're rushing there." Then, with a small pause, Jianshen looked to the princess. "Yu, call me Jianshen in the future rather than Changyang Xiangtian." "Okay. This must be the name you used after you left the Changyang clan?" The princess sweetly smiled. "Correct." Jianshen nodded. "So you changed your name. No wonder I never heard about you when teacher said the Changyang clan couldn't find you. Jianshen's a fine name to hear though. Changyang Xiangtian, I'll call you that from now on as well." The group of people continued to laugh and chat to each other as they traveled. When it came to thinking about the mercenary group he had once commanded, Jianshen's thoughts practically flew over to Wake City. After so many years have passed, he was unclear just how the mercenary group developed. Chapter 541, Reentering Wake City. After Jianshen and his group left Lore City, the Xiao family had all gathered within the halls of their clan compound in Huanga City. The head of the Xiao family sat in the topmost position while several dozen youths kneeled down on the other side. If Jianshen and Tai Ta were here, they would be able to confirm that these youths were the very same ones that tried to kidnap Xiao from the village. A report for the Lord. We've made a concise investigation, and these are the ones that offended the 4th master of the Changyang clan. One of the bulkier-looking men cupped his hands as he gave his report. The head of the Xiao family, Xiao Yun, stared dangerously at the few men. His frosty eyes made the youths afraid to respond or even look up. "Your forgiveness, my lord," please forgive us. We didn't know that they were men from the Changyang clan. We only knew that a female villager was rather pretty, and we wished to have her wed to the young master. We did all of this with the young master in mind. My lord, please spare us. We won't dare do such a thing again, my lord, please give us one more chance, please forgive us this once. The youths all knew that they had invited disaster upon themselves. Thus they knelt down and wept for forgiveness. Snorting, Xiao replied, drag them out and break both their legs. Yes. The middle-aged men nearby replied. Then calling for several guards, they dragged out the youths to break their legs. Tie them up and prepare them as gifts. We shall head to that village to apologize. Xiao commanded. For the grand and mighty head of the Xiao family to personally come to apologize to a mountain village, showed just how importantly he viewed this matter. The Cross Mountains was the Tianyuan continent's largest magical beast mountain range. It traversed across the entire continent, bisecting the continent in two. The mountain range took up a sizable portion of land. An endless amount of magical beasts existed within the Cross Mountains. A veritable paradise for magical beasts to congregate at. Many of the Class 6 magical beasts on the continent lived there. Very few of them lived anywhere else. Furthermore, legend had it that within the depths of the mountains existed several Class 7 magical beasts. As a result, the Cross Mountains were designated a forbidden zone for humanity. Any human that tried to enter the Cross Mountains would never find their way back alive. So, the very depths of the Cross Mountains have existed as a forbidden zone for thousands and thousands of years. Even Heaven's Saint Masters were afraid of taking a single step into this land. At this moment, within the depths of the Cross Mountains, stood a 3-meter-tall middle-aged man. This man had a very stalwart in physique. The veins in his body glowed with a golden color. His copper-like muscles bulged as a sign of well-development, and the only clothes he wore was a single pair of shorts that stopped short of his knees. Both of the man's hands drooped down as he stood with hesitation in this area. His eyes flickered with an uncertain light as if unsure of something. Right where he was standing was the common boundary between the abyss of the mountains and the outer world itself. The entire Cross Mountains have been searched already, but the winged tiger god cannot be found. Even Rumgina's presence has completely vanished. It appears that she has already brought the winged tiger god from Cross Mountains a long time ago and into the territory of man. If we wish to kill the winged tiger god, then we will have to step into that territory. The man muttered to himself with knotted eyebrows. Rum Guinness has already violated the treaty we have with mankind. Should I reveal this information and let the human experts deal with them? The man thought for a moment before quickly shaking his head. No, that won't do. This involves the ancient mythological winged tiger god. A matter like this is far too important to allow humanity to realize the problem. If they find out and find a way to tame the winged tiger god while it's still a cub, then it'll be a tremendous calamity for the entire magical beast race. It appears that we cannot allow the cub to remain in the human territory. We must kill it, but the moment I step into the human's territory, at this the man's voice began to falter as his eyes began to reveal a deep shade of fear. After a moment, another gleam that would cause anyone to shiver appeared in his eyes. As if he was finally determined, he growled, "The experts of humanity have all hidden themselves. As long as I am careful, they won't find me." With that, the man took a determined step forward across the boundary between the Cross Mountains and the outer world. His body began to glimmer and shake for a moment before shooting off at an inconceivable speed, finally blinking out of sight. 2 days later in the stronghold of the Blue Wind Kingdom, a group of mercenaries could be seen slowly escorting a caravan of goods. Among the crowd were 7 Class 3 magical beasts traveling at a leisurely pace. Sitting on top of these magical beasts were 6 males and a single female. Although they wore plain clothes, their presences were regal and unordinary by any sense of word. Even the people around them didn't dare get too close, and kept a healthy distance as if afraid of unknowingly offending someone of unusual power. After 2 days' worth of traveling, Jian Chen and his group had finally arrived at the Blue Wind Kingdom. After entering the interior of the kingdom's territory, Jian Chen didn't stop. They continued on toward Wake City. The Class 3 magical beasts continued to move at a rapid pace through the lands. They left behind a trail of dust that looked like a single dust dragon from far away. By the end of the day, when the moon had started to rise, Jian Chen's group finally arrived at Wake City. The horizon was already growing a dusky light with the last half of the sun nearly out of sight. The light that radiated from the sunset was enough to illuminate half of the sky. There weren't many travelers moving to and from the gates of Wake City, so only several dozen weary soldiers were guarding the gates. Jian Chen's group of travelers slowly made their way to the gated entrance of the city. Seeing the battle-worn city walls, Jian Chen felt a complex emotion arise on his face as if reminiscing about something. Wake City was a tiny third-class city. In this place, Jian Chen had struggled with no small efforts to survive. His struggles had left deep impressions on him. Each step he took here seemed to link to yet another memory fragment in his mind. Ming Dong stared curiously at the old-fashioned walls of Wake City before speaking up. "Jian Chen, your mercenary group is staying in this city?" Jian Chen nodded once. "But it has been a long time, I'm not quite sure if they're still in Wake City." With that, Jian Chen and the others entered the city. Stopping a passerby, Jian Chen questioned, "Hello there, brother, are the Flame Mercenaries still in Wake City?" What a strange question. The Flame Mercenaries have always been in Wake City. Where else would they be if not here? The man stared strangely at Jian Chen. Jian Chen was overjoyed to hear that. "Wonderful. I didn't think that the Flame Mercenaries would still be here. I was worried they would move to another location." "Brother, do you happen to know where they're located at?" "At the Kai family's compound in the southwest part of the city." The man replied. "Many thanks." Jian Chen clasped his hand together before urging his mount forward, bringing the other 6 to where he remembered the Kai family's location was. At that moment, there were already a large group of sturdy-looking men gathered at the gates to the Kai family's home. Each one of them possessed a murderous air to them, totaling to over 200 people. Right in front of them were 3 middle-aged men and a single elder standing side by side in a single line in front of the gates. Standing behind these 4 was yet another large group of people with frosty glares of their own. "One-armed warrior, your Defiance mercenaries are intolerable with your bullying. Although our Flame mercenaries may not be as strong as we once were, that doesn't make us easy targets. Do you really think we'll stand for the annihilation of our group? We'll ensure that your Defiance mercenaries lose just as much as you gain." The elder standing in front glared dangerously at the group in front of him. Standing at the very front was a man with a single arm. Laughing, he spoke, "Flame mercenaries, if this were the past, then your group would have the strength to go against my group. With how things stand now, I, the one-armed warrior, really don't see you as a threat. If you don't want to die, then cooperate with us. Join with my Defiance mercenaries and we won't treat you unfairly." "Humph, hoping to annex the Flame mercenaries into your Defiance mercenaries is nothing more than the dreams of a madman. The brethren of the Flame mercenaries are not cowards. We will not accept this." A middle-aged man spoke from in front of the gates. "Qingfeng, I know that you are not cowards. You are a man in the truest sense of word and thus I respect you. However, your Flame mercenaries cannot compare to my Defiance mercenaries in battle, so why not join with us and help expand the Defiance mercenaries? When we become the Blue Wind Kingdom's strongest mercenary group, I will award you all for your services. From here on out, endless glory and splendor will await us. What is there to disagree with, eh? It's not worth your life to squabble over this." The one-armed man laughed. "Humph, if not for the absence of the captain of our Flame mercenaries, then your Defiance mercenaries wouldn't even have the chance of going as you please in Wake City. You'd be thrown out before you'd start." Mo Tian gnashed his teeth. "The captain of the Flame mercenaries? Ah, you must be talking about Jian Chen. I've heard about him before. A single man who destroyed the Zhou mercenaries and the Zhou clan by himself before also eliminating the Tianxiong clan in Wake City. Then, he even fought with a Class 5 magical beast with his skill. Tut tut, what a strength he has. Not bad at all, even I have no choice but to admire him." By this point, the one-armed man had a taunting look on his face as he continued to speak. But what a shame, your captain isn't here. He went off to participate in the gathering of the mercenaries. Humph, what a egotistical brat with no knowledge of the world. With just the small amount of fame he achieved in this small city, he thought he was undefeated in the world and joined the gathering of the mercenaries. He should have realized that area is a world that only Earth's Saint Masters can survive in. Without that strength, just how could he participate in it? He most likely died in Mercenary City, so how could he even come back to Wake City? Chapter 542, Crisis of the Flame Mercenaries. The one-armed man's words caused the 4 men standing in front of the Kai family's gates to harden their expressions. Qing Feng had been the first to fire back. One-armed warrior, bite your tongue. Just how could the immensity of our captain's strength be explained by you? True enough. I feel that this Jian Chen's strength is nothing more than hearsay. Whatever his true strength is, I have never seen it before. What I am sure is that he is still not yet at the strength of an Earth Saint Master. If he wasn't one before he went to gathering of the mercenaries, then he's certainly looking to die an early death. It's been a long time since the ending of that event anyways. If your Captain Jian Chen was still alive, then why hasn't he returned? The man sneered. Seeing that no one could reply, the one-armed man continued on, I bet you've all already reached an answer. You're just not willing to accept it. Then why don't I say it for you? Your captain died in Mercenary City. He will never come back here alive. The man's words caused every single mercenary from the Flame Mercenaries to blanch, but they quickly schooled their emotions. At this, the man could only shake his head in disappointment. He had originally planned on striking at their morale to influence them all over to his side. In the end it had been fruitless. How would he know that the 100-member strong Flame Mercenaries were all previously the mercenaries under the command of the great Saint Masters Qing Feng, Mo Tian, Duo Kong, Charkis, Seth, Kai Er, and Weiss? In their hearts, these 7 men were the leaders that they would die for, men that they would continue to follow with unflinching conviction. One-armed warrior, don't bother wasting time with this scheme of yours. We will follow our captain to the death. You may as well give up, our Flame Mercenaries will never join your Defiance Mercenaries. If you still wish to continue with this thought of yours, then we may as well waste no time and get to fighting. Kai Er spoke. Although they weren't as strong as they once were in the past and were just below the Defiance Mercenaries in strength, the final outcome between the two would be disastrous. The one-armed man's face darkened as he bit his lip. I've given you a chance, but you were unfortunate enough to not cherish it. If this is it, do not blame me for being ruthless now. Brothers, let us fight. At his command, every single man behind him began to take out their saint weapons one by one. Brothers, let us fight. Kai Er and the others called out, unwilling to lag behind. As soon as they spoke, several dozen men from within the Flame Mercenaries took out a bottle from their space belts and smashed it onto the ground. Soon, the courtyard was filled with a light green smog of smoke after the bottles had been broken. The smog obscured the sight of everyone. The actions of these men confused the surrounding Flame Mercenaries. Flabbergasted, they all looked around without any understanding of what was happening. Noticing the commotion going on behind him, Qing Feng turned around only to discover the light green smog of smoke gradually dispersing into the open air around them. Stunned for just a brief moment, Qing Feng immediately snapped back to focus with a cry, poison. Everyone hold your breath. Ha ha ha, it's too late for that. The one-armed man laughed in an unrestrained manner from outside the courtyard. You. Mo Tian furiously glared at the man with a frightening expression. His eyes gleamed with a furious and unrestrained killing intent as he ground his teeth. One-armed warrior, I took you to be a man. To think that you'd actually use such a 2-bit method, I've misjudged you. Ha ha ha, what method isn't useful? Let me tell you, as long as a method brings you victory, then it is a good method. If you want to survive on the continent, then you can't afford to be inflexible. Otherwise, you won't survive for long. The one-armed man laughed. Take an antidote, now. Kill the traitors in our ranks. Kai Er whirled around to command the Flame Mercenaries. Needless to say, the members of the Flame Mercenaries had already taken out several antidotes from their space belts. Administering them, they turned to face the traitors that had tried to poison them with infuriated glares and murderous auras. After taking several steps forward, each one of the mercenaries had paused with a pained expression on their faces. Coughing, they all began to cough out blood from their mouths as the poison within them finally took effect. Kai Er, Motian, Qingfeng, and Charcus were startled by this sight. What a strong poison. One of them couldn't help but cry out. Pleased with himself, the one-armed man smiled, of course. This is a poison I synthesized after paying a heavy price. It isn't any normal type of poison, it has 2 steps to it. The first step is to use a type of poisonous seed that'll hide itself within your body without detection. It'll slowly germinate and grow within your body bit by bit without any of you ever noticing. Then, after using a special method, the seed will begin to rapidly unfold and cause a tremendous amount of pain. This poisonous smoke was the trigger for the poison to activate within your body. This smoke isn't anything special in terms of toxicity. Its only function is to activate the poison inside you since it doesn't require to be breathed in. As long as the body is in contact with it, then the poison will be triggered. Its effects are so strong that in 4 hours, you'll find yourself waking up by the Yellow Springs. By now, the one-armed man was laughing out loud. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you, the antidote to this poison can't be bought. So don't waste your time taking those antidotes, won't help you here. At most, you'll alleviate some of the symptoms, but you won't be able to cure yourself of my poison. One-armed warrior, so you've been planning this for all this time. A month ago, you must have had those traitors of ours plant the poison in our food. Kai Er roared with fury. The poison in his body had already started to activate as blood started to leak from his mouth. Correct. But that can't be blamed on me. Who told you not to surrender the Flame Mercenaries to me? If you only just surrendered earlier, then this wouldn't have happened to you. The one-armed man laughed before taking out a palm-sized bottle. You have 4 hours. Follow me and prosper, or defy me and die. You have a choice between life or death, and I have only a limited supply. Whoever comes first gets some. Otherwise, pity will be given for the ones that have none. The entire Flame Mercenaries grew quiet now as the poison within their bodies continued to get worse. By this point, everyone's faces were deathly pale as blood streamed from their mouths. One-armed warrior, don't even think you can persuade us with your 2-bit methods. I, Motian, will never let you live easily for this life of mine. Motian barked as he took out his saint weapon. Just as he took a single step forward, a coughing sound came from his mouth and blood erupted from it. If I may offer you some advice, don't try using your saint force. It'll only serve to increase the growth of the poison even more and accelerate your death. The man spoke with a smile. His eyes turned to the men behind Motian. Take use of the opportunity that the poison hasn't yet reached your hearts. If you wish to live, then hurry up and swear allegiance to my Defiance Mercenaries. Otherwise, the poison will reach your heart by nighttime. By that point, this antidote of mine will be useless to help you. I only have a limited quantity of this antidote, so choose quickly and don't regret the choice you make. After a moment, there were finally several mercenaries that didn't wish to die. One by one, they slowly walked out of the compound. Watching those men leave their ranks, Kai Er and the others could only sigh to themselves. They couldn't blame them. Soon, more and more mercenaries decided to live and serve the Defiance Mercenaries rather than die. In the end, only 60 or so men were left from the original 100+ men. The one-armed man glanced at Kai Er and the other 3 with a chuckle. Kai Er, Qingfeng, Motian, Charcus, what do you think? There's not many antidotes left, but if you choose to enter my Defiance Mercenaries now, I won't mistreat you. The might of the one-armed warrior is far too inadequate for us 4 to join you. Motian snarled in disdain. Slowly taking up his giant sword, Charcus turned back to look at his 60 or so pale-faced brothers. Heroically, he spoke, "My brothers. I am proud of you all, for you are men among men, men born from steel itself. Death is not something to fear. If death is all that we face, then let us pick up our weapons and defend our honor. If we are to die, then we will die magnificently. If we are to die, then we will take with us a sacrifice. We will not let the Defiance mercenaries walk away unharmed. Qingfeng raised up his long sword with a heroic aura. Brothers, let us fight side by side in this final battle. For battle. For war. For glory. The remaining members of the Flame Mercenaries roared out to the heavens one after another in response to Mo Tian and Qingfeng. Although they were all pale in the face and were bleeding blood from their mouths, their eyes remained unwavering and unafraid of death. They had already given up their fear of death. At this sight, the one-armed man's face darkened. Snorting, he spoke, "If you wish to die, then I'll grant you all that favor. Kill them all." The group of men behind the one-armed man began to let loose a bestial and bloodthirsty amount of killing intent before charging toward the men in the compound. Suddenly, a red glow of light exploded into view as a single flaming longsword came flying at tremendous speeds from the other end of the road. In an instant, it impacted the ground in front of the compound. With a tremendous explosion of energy, the men from Defiance Mercenaries were immediately reduced to a pitiful state. Chapter 543, Return of the Captain. Caught off guard by the abrupt explosion, both the Defiance Mercenaries and the Flame Mercenaries, who were on the verge of war with one another, stopped dead in their tracks. No matter the side, everyone looked to the gates of the Kai family with shock. Everyone could see from the origin of impact that there was a single 2-meter deep crater. The marbled road had been reduced to rubble with spiderweb-like cracks extending across the ground. Seeing the 2-meter deep crater, the Flame and Defiance Mercenaries were deeply awed and stunned. Just what type of strength would one need to be able to cause damage to this extent? It was hard to believe or ascertain for sure, but even a battle skill used by a great Saint Master wouldn't be able to cause a comparable amount of destruction. This was after all marble of a very durable caliber. Not only was it hard and solid, it was unlike the soft and malleable dirt found outside in the wild. The members of the Defiance Mercenaries and the men with Kai air looked to the end of the street with hardened expressions. In their hearts they were all apprehensive. Everyone was well aware that the person capable of such destruction would most definitely be either a great Saint Master with a battle skill or an individual at the Earth Saint Master realm. In either case, it was an individual that neither of the two groups could win against. Even more dangerous was the fact that no one knew whether this newcomer was friend or foe. The colors of the sky were growing dimmer and dimmer as the shroud of night blanketed the earth. As a result, the Flame Mercenaries and the Defiance Mercenaries could only nervously wait as they listened to clopping sounds from the end of the street. Shortly afterward, 7 magical beast mounts came into view along with their riders who were slowly advancing toward the two mercenary groups. Neither the Defiance Mercenaries or the Flame Mercenaries were able to make out the faces of the riders with full clarity because of the distance and the dampened vision due to the darkness of night. Watching the 7 mounts and riders slowly approach them, the representative of the Defiance Mercenaries took a hesitant step forward. Saluting them, he spoke, "This one is the captain of the Defiance Mercenaries, known as the One-Armed Warrior. I pay my respects to you seniors." The 7 hadn't spoken at all and moved forward in silence at a slow pace. Coming from one end of the street to the other, they finally arrived at the gates to the Kai family. It was at this moment that the 4 men and the one-armed man could distinctly see the faces of the men. To the shock of everyone, aside from the 2 middle-aged men at the very sides, the rest of the travelers were all youths. I bet this group is a group of aristocratic children from some sort of wealthy family. That strike just now has to be from one of the 2 middle-aged men at the sides. If such a strong individual was assigned as their guards, then the rapport behind this group has to be extremely strong. The one-armed man conjectured to himself. Without neglecting his expressions, he continued to bow respectfully as he smiled enchantingly. "My lords must be traveling across this road. My sincere apologies, I shouldn't have blocked the roads at all, allow me to give way." With that, the man immediately ordered his mercenaries to move out of the way. "My lords, this one is known as the One-Armed Warrior, captain of the Defiance Mercenaries. Although our strengths are well beneath your eyes, there is very little that my mercenaries cannot accomplish in Wake City. Should my lords ever require assistance in the future, do call on us. My lords, the road is clear now, if you please." The man saluted along with the other mercenaries with a rather cordial expression on his face. At this current moment, the one-armed warrior was completely focused on the riders on top of the magical beast mounts, and had completely disregarded the men behind him. Kai Er and the other three were at this moment staring at the face of Jian Chen in complete shock. Some of them could barely believe their eyes at what they saw. Despite the fact that Jian Chen had left Wake City 2 years ago, Kai Er and the others would recognize Jian Chen from anywhere. After participating in the gathering of the mercenaries, it had taken Jian Chen 2 years to return in their moment of peril. Such timing painted Jian Chen as a savior in their eyes. The flames of hope had reignited within their eyes once more at this sight. It was almost as if the glorious dawn of victory could be seen instead of the initial dusk of defeat. Seeing the ingratiating appearance of the one-armed man, Jian Chen couldn't help but find himself smiling from where he sat. This smile was not a happy smile, but a cold one. Shortly after, his eyes slowly made their way toward the gates of the Kai family where Kai Er and the others were. A furious killing intent gradually began to show in his eyes, so with a smile that did not quite make its way completely to his eyes, Jian Chen spoke, "The one-armed warrior? I will remember that name." There was absolutely no way that the one-armed man would know that this youth in front of him was actually the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jian Chen. He had only thought that he had coincidentally come across the young master of some sort of influential and aristocratic family, and had completely missed the implied meaning hidden in Jian Chen's words. As such, he had been overjoyed to hear Jian Chen and spoke up, "If I may inquire of milord's name." "This will be a great honor to the one-armed warrior." "Milord, the path is clear now, I shall not take up any more of your valuable time. If my lord pleases." A cold smile remained on Jian Chen's face. "One-armed warrior, who says that I was passing by on this road? My destination is here in fact." The man was startled into silence at these words. The light in Jian Chen's eyes immediately frosted over as a tremendous amount of killing intent began to leak from his body and then shrouded the other man in it. "One-armed warrior, do you know who I am?" Jian Chen asked with a demanding growl. The one-armed man's face seemed to have aged by now. As a great Saint Master, just how would he be able to withstand the killing intent of a Heaven Saint Master? Straight away, it felt as if he had been dropped into a bottomless abyss of ice that brought shivers and sweat to his entire body. The one-armed man was completely pale with fright now. For the life of him, he had absolutely no idea just how or why the aristocratic young lord in front of him was targeting him with such a tremendous amount of killing intent. It left him speechless beyond belief and indescribably terrified. Neither did he know just when or how he had somehow offended the very same strong young lord. "Milord, could I have offended you somehow in some place? Might I inquire the specifics?" There was a trill to his voice now. Although he had no idea how strong Jian Chen was, the amount of killing intent targeted at him was enough to leave his heart in terror. From his perch on top of the magical beast mount, Jian Chen towered over the one-armed man with a sneer. "One-armed warrior, listen well. I am the one you said died in Mercenary City. I am the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. Jian Chen." The pupils of the one-armed man instantaneously dilated at Jian Chen's speech. His face took on a drastic change as his eyes stared in disbelief at Jian Chen with absolute dread. "What? You're that Jian Chen?" The man was beside himself and his voice began to tremble. When the 4 men at the gates heard Jian Chen's words, they let out a gasp of disbelief one after another, but the emotions in their eyes was of extreme joy. "The captain. The captain has returned. Our captain has finally returned, it's the captain. The captain has returned from the gathering of the mercenaries." Kai Er and the 3 continued to cry out in emotional relief one after another while the dozens of mercenaries behind them began to reveal wide open grins on their faces. As deep in the abyss of death as they were, their hands had managed to fumble and grab onto a vine that would pull them to safety. In that darkness of death, the light of life could be seen now. Having noticed the deathly pale faces of everyone, Jianghu didn't waste any more time to banter. Glaring at the one-armed man, Jianghu said, "One-armed warrior, you are courageous to go against my flame mercenaries, I'll give you that." The one-armed man's face was a mixture of pale white and putrid green from his fear and shock. Seeing the handsome but young face of Jianghu and associating him with the tremendous explosion of power, caused his heart to be terrified. "You're actually the very same Jianghu as the captain of the flame mercenaries? Didn't you go off to participate in the gathering of the mercenaries? How did you make it out alive?" The man quavered. Coldly laughing, Jianghu replied, "Enough talk, bring out the antidote straight away." A gleam of light flashed through the one-armed man's eyes. Immediately thinking of a plan, he took out a white jade bottle from his space belt and held it tightly within his hands as he backed away. In several moments, he stood 20 meters away from Jianghu with a panicked face. "Jianghu, I only have this much antidote. If you don't believe me, I'll just smash it all here and now for you to never get the antidote to my poison." Jianghu smiled in contempt as he glared at the man. "Did you think you could negotiate with me?" The one-armed man stared fearfully at Jianghu and then the two middle-aged men Yunzheng and Senior, and realizing the strength of the opposition, the fear he had in his heart for these men had instantly skyrocketed. However, for the sake of a safe return, he didn't have a choice. Since he poisoned the men of the flame mercenaries, he knew there was no way that Jianghu would let them go now. "Jianghu, if you want the antidote, fine. However, you must promise us that we will be granted a safe departure from here," the man cried out. Without waiting for Jianghu to reply, he waved for his men and shouted, "Brothers, run away." Every single member of the Defiance mercenaries immediately knew that they were the weaker party. Without hesitation, they all collected their saint weapons and ran off in all directions with reckless abandon. "Leaving won't be as easy as you think." Jianghu's face hardened. "Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Yunzheng, Seniorin, stop them all. Kill anyone that tries to escape without mercy." "Huh, all right." Ming Dong laughed out loud as he flew out from his saddle. Transforming into an azure light while in mid-air, he disappeared from sight. He reappeared 100 meters away to cut off the other side of the road where the Defiance mercenaries were trying to run away. De Gufeng, Yunzheng, and Seniorin had already realized the roles they would have to act out in the scene. They didn't dare defy Jianghu's commands. Without hesitation, they flew into the air and followed Ming Dong's route to stop the mercenaries from running off in any direction. Startled, the one-armed man held the bottle high into the air and stared dangerously at Jianghu. "Jianghu, this synthesis of mine has only one antidote. Do you really want your entire flame mercenaries to die from deadly poison? You have no right to threaten me. Furthermore, you have no right to demand negotiations." Jianghu barked. With a single thought, he began to gather the boundless energy of the world to swirl around them in a frantic manner. The tide of energy began to swirl around the one-armed man, rendering him incapable of movements. With an extension of his arm and palm, Jianghu forced the bottle in the man's hand fly to his own. Having witnessed the methods of a heaven saint master struck no small amount of fear into the heart of a great saint master like the one-armed warrior. On the other side, Ming Dong and the other three had completely blocked the exit of the Defiance mercenaries. Within seconds, someone within the group had cried out. "They're only several men. We can take them on, charge." "That's right. With just those four, we're far more than them. If we all fight now, we can slaughter them." One after another, the mercenaries of the Defiance mercenaries took out their saint weapons and charged straight at Ming Dong to strike him down. "You're acting recklessly here." Ming Dong laughed. Before he could make a move, De Gufeng made a motion to stop him. Expressionlessly, De Gufeng said, "I alone will be enough to deal with them." Chapter 544, Punishment. Having said that, Du Feng immediately brought out a giant sword made of flames. After a violent jerk of his hand, a blaze of flames began to coil around the blade before an inferno ignited on it. A halo of light burst from the sword. It brought forth such a dazzling glow that the surrounding shadows were completely obliterated. Impossible, that's the essence of fire. It's the essence of fire, he's an Earth Saint Master. Everyone run away. He's an Earth Saint Master. At this display of strength, the smarter members of the Defiance Mercenaries quickly became pale in the face. The spurt of courage that had welled up in them earlier had instantly vanished just as quickly it came. Without any more courage to fight, they began to retreat in terror. A gleam of light flashed in Du Feng's eyes as he twirled his giant sword in a violent motion. The light from the fire on his sword filled the sky. He then quickly brought forth another burst of flames, but this time he directed them down the streets with lightning speed. Bang! The street was washed with a plume of smoke, and the marble substance on them had crumbled as easily as tofu. A fissure about a third of a meter deep appeared in the street as a surge of Saint force filled the area, forcing the entire street to tremble as if it was experiencing an earthquake. Feeling the explosive might that came from a casual swing of Du Feng's sword, every member of the Defiance Mercenaries felt miserable beyond belief. At this moment, practically every person could only think about how terrifying an Earth Saint Master was. Calmly recollecting his sword, Du Feng stared emotionlessly at the Defiance Mercenaries. Whoever crosses this line, consider your life forfeit. He spat. The entire group of mercenaries was practically quaking with fear, for the fissure was barely in front of their feet. Everyone could only look at the line as if it represented death itself. Not a single person dared to cross it. On the other side, the one-armed man could only stare at the red-robed Du Feng in shock. He had been thrown into silence by the scene in front of him. The man could hardly believe that the captain of the Flame Mercenaries was capable of commanding an Earth Saint Master to do his bidding. In the small city that was Wake City, great Saint Masters were already considered the epitome of strength. In the entire city, there would only be 20 of them at most. Earth Saint Masters would hardly find any worth by heading to such a small city in this area. In the case that one did arrive, then they would indisputably be the strongest expert around. In the scope of the entire city, none would be a match for them. Now that the Flame Mercenaries had an Earth Saint Master leveled expert, just who in Wake City would dare go against them? The Flame Mercenaries were astonished by Du Feng's strength as well, but soon their expressions were quickly filled with joy and their bodies began to shake with trepidation. If someone as strong as an Earth Saint Master listened to their captain, then wouldn't that mean that this person was one of their own? Jianghu tossed the bottle he had forcibly taken from the one-armed man's hand over to Kai Er. Hurry up and take the antidote. Yes, Captain. Kai Er enthusiastically responded. Twisting off the stopper to the bottle, they each poured a drop of the liquid into their mouths before they passed the bottle on. There had been plenty of antidote within the bottle for everyone to have some. Even better, more than half of the bottle remained, contradicting the words that the one-armed warrior had said earlier about there being a limited supply. After administering the antidote, every poisoned mercenary soon felt the color return to their faces. Soon enough, the poison was flushed from their systems, and was no longer a threat to their lives. Jianghu leaped off his magical beast mount and walked up to Kai Er. It seems that my return was in time to save your lives. A lot must have happened in these last 2 years. Why don't I see Duo Kong, Seth, and Weiss? Where have they gone? A grieved look appeared on Kai Er's face. Captain, it was all because of our inabilities. The strong mercenary group you left us with is now reduced to these several dozen members. A year ago, Duo Kong, Seth, and Weiss came across an accident that marked their eternal departure from us. From the 7 of us, only 4 remain. Jianghu could only sigh with regret at that. Those 7 men had been the strongest men he had managed to bring under his control. At the same time, they served as the pillar of the Flame Mercenaries, so he had felt exceptional concern for the 7. Suddenly, the whistling sound of air could be heard. The one-armed man took the opportunity to escape while Jianghu reminisced with the Flame Mercenaries. With a sudden leap, he tried to bound over the rooftops in an attempt to get away. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed in irritation, but he did not turn his body or head around. Instead, he pointed a finger behind him. A flash of sword chi came flying from his finger and flew through the air with unbelievable speed before coming into contact with the right arm of the one-armed warrior. Ah! The one-armed man let out a miserable shout. The only arm he had was bisected. It flopped to the floor while a stream of blood came flying out from his arm like a bloody rainstorm. The one-armed warrior fell from the sky to the ground in a sorry state of pain. He only had one arm to begin with, and that was the reason why he was known as the one-armed warrior. For his remaining arm to be gone now, he was nothing more than a handicapped man. Every single member of the Defiance mercenaries felt horrified to see their leader crippled. One by one, they looked at Jian Chen with fearful eyes. The one-armed warrior was the strongest within their Defiance mercenaries. His defeat was an extreme blow to the Defiance mercenaries as a whole. Kai Er and the other three were once more floored by Jian Chen's strength since he had easily cut off and crippled the man's remaining arm. Their faces soon became ecstatic. If the Flame mercenaries follow a strong figure such as Jian Chen as their captain, then their success would be immeasurable. The peerless miracle that our captain has given us has opened my eyes to the world. Mo Tian couldn't help but emotionally remake. His eyes were brimming with tears as he spoke. Seeing Jian Chen's strength seemed to have given Mo Tian a glimpse of the glorious tomorrow of the Flame mercenaries. Having such a strong captain lead the mercenaries would make it extremely hard for the group not to grow. Jian Chen smiled and looked at the 60 members of the Flame mercenaries with admiration. You've done well as the pride of the Flame mercenaries. In the future, Jian Chen will waste no effort to help you grow. After experiencing such hardships, the remaining members of the Flame mercenaries were without a doubt worth Jian Chen's respect and his investment to make them strong. So, Jian Chen felt determined to not even bother training anyone else. Jian Chen's words made Kai Er and the others extremely happy. Many thanks to the captain for your guidance. The previous members of the Flame mercenaries who chose to live all felt regret appear on their faces. Seeing that there was no way to escape, they could only look back with gloomy and fearful expressions as members of the Defiance mercenaries. Then looking back to the captain of the Flame mercenaries, who had suddenly returned, the ones who chose life over death had immediately felt ashamed. Earlier, they had chosen to live by leaving the Flame mercenaries after being backed into a corner by the Defiance mercenaries. They had previously thought they wouldn't need to fear for their lives, but who would have known that the situation would have taken such a drastic turnabout? The tides of victory that the Defiance mercenaries had once held suddenly changed when the captain of the Flame mercenaries reappeared to toss them into a hole. Whether they could leave or not would depend on the mood of the Flame mercenaries. Therefore, the Flame mercenaries who betrayed them felt incomparably embarrassed and ashamed by their actions to the point where they could hardly look into the eyes of the brothers they had once fought shoulder to shoulder with. Jian Chen's eyes hovered over the group where the Defiance mercenaries stood, but the Flame mercenaries who had chosen to leave could only hang their heads in shame, unable to look at Jian Chen. I will leave judgment of the Defiance mercenaries to you. Whether they die or live, it is up to you to decide. Jian Chen spoke calmly without looking at the ex-members of the Flame mercenaries. The one-armed warrior and his Defiance mercenaries must be disposed of. Their hands are stained with the blood of our brothers. How could I not take revenge for my fallen brothers? Mo Tian's teeth gnashed against each other as he spoke with a murderous fire in his eyes. Hearing that, the great Saint Masters of the Defiance mercenaries grew startled. Giving each other a look, they immediately leaped to the sky. They leapt into every direction possible in order to escape. They had killed many of the Flame mercenaries before, so they knew that to stay behind was to await death without hope. As things were, they may as well try their best to escape for a chance at life. Ming Dong mockingly laughed, if I let you escape right under my nose, I'd have no face to hand over to my brothers. With that, Ming Dong and Du Gufeng immediately lashed out with their arms. They shot out several blades of sword chi that bisected all of the great Saint Masters in half. Blood and body parts came raining down from the sky with their deaths. Watching the strongest members of their group be easily killed by the individuals of the opposing side, the rest of the Defiance mercenaries had gone ghostly white in terror of Du Gufeng and Ming Dong. "Please spare us, Captain Jian Chen. 1,000 pardons. We will leave the Defiance mercenaries for the Flame mercenaries and work like oxen if need be. Please forgive us this once. I still have a wife and child to take care of back home. Please forgive us, Captain Jian Chen." Everyone from the Defiance mercenaries knew where all the power lay now. Some of the ones unwilling to die began to kneel on the ground and kowtow repeatedly in desperation. Qin Feng walked up to them step by step. "Our Flame mercenaries will not kill every last one of you, but we won't just let you off so easily. Hand over your space belts and you may leave." We'll do it. Qin Feng's words were like the song of a gospel to the ears of the Defiance mercenaries. As if they were granted amnesty, not a single one of them hesitated to relinquish their space belts. They obediently handed them over. 2 Earth Saint Masters appearing caused their hearts to feel an unbelievable amount of pressure. Just then, one of the members who previously chose to leave the Flame mercenaries to live walked up to Qin Feng. "Boss, would it be possible for me to rejoin the Flame mercenaries? You know that I have family at home unlike the rest of my carefree brothers. I can't die, and there was no other choice." Qin Feng was quiet and turned to look at Jian Chen. Jian Chen thought for a moment before waving his hand. "You may leave. As thanks for your service for once being a member of the Flame mercenaries, you need not hand over you things, just leave." The Defiance mercenaries had all given their space belts before being able to leave from this place in peace. True to their words, the Flame mercenaries did not kill everyone without reason. However, the traitors that had poisoned them were tied up. Chapter 545. The direction of development. The ex-members that had poisoned the Flame mercenaries had been bought out by the Defiance mercenaries a long time ago, and were thus not spared by Kai Er. Their heads were cut off, and their corpses were tossed into the wilderness outside of Wake City for the beasts to feast on. With everything done and taken care of, the group cleaned up the area around the Kai family's compound before heading straight on in. Within the halls, Jian Chen sat at the very top where the head of the compound would normally sit. At his side was Ming Dong and the 5 others along with Kai Er and his 3 companions from the Flame mercenaries. Kai Er, Qin Feng, Mo Tian, and Charcus. "What has happened since my departure those years ago? Why has the Flame mercenaries fallen into such a miserable state?" Jian Chen stared at the 4 in question. "Captain, it was all because of our inability. Not only were we unable to expand the Flame mercenaries, we also let it fall into such a desolate state. If not for the captain coming over to help us, then our Flame mercenaries may not have survived beyond today." Kai Er spoke in shame. "Describe what happened to me in detail. Allow me to understand just what occurred in the past." Jian Chen spoke. Kai Er gave a look to the other 3 for a moment before summoning up his courage. "Captain, allow me to say it. When you first left, we followed your orders on doing our best to expand the Flame mercenaries' strength. At that time our strength was enough to make us undefeatable in Wake City, so our very first step was to reorganize the structure of Wake City and reclaim all the power that had been lost to us. Our plan was performed without a hitch when we were first implementing it. We were trying to bring many of the other clans and powers under our command along with several of the weaker mercenary groups. Thus, the Flame mercenaries attained another level of power, but there were some factions within Wake City that were unwilling to join with our Flame mercenaries. Forming an alliance, they began to contend against our Flame mercenaries. This coalition of theirs was filled with several of the stronger families and mercenaries within the city, making their strength no less than our own. For some time, we battled secretly with them in the shadows of the city, receiving damage on both sides. Half a year later it was discovered that the cub of a Class 5 magical beast was found. The news was leaked and had made its way to the ears of the enemy alliance. This time, our Flame mercenaries and that alliance were embroiled in an all-out war because of the cub. Both of our sides ended up inflicting a tremendous amount of damage. In the end, our Flame mercenaries managed to win over the enemy alliance. Alas, Weiss and Seth were both casualties of the war. Upon hearing of a Class 5 magical beast cub, Jian Chen's eyes gained a strange light to them. This cub belongs to the Golden Tiger King, doesn't it? Correct. That cub was indeed the Golden Tiger King's cub. It was unable to attack because of its adolescence. Hence, our flame mercenaries were able to obtain it. But unfortunately, Kai Er's voice began to falter at this point as pain and grief filled his face. But what? Jian Chen's eyes continued to stare down at Kai Er with the same strange light. There was an unforgivable and unforgettable hatred etched between this Golden Tiger King's cub and Jian Chen. It was because of this cub that the original Captain Kendall was killed and the rest of the members beside him had been buried in the mountain range. AI. It was because of our carelessness that the cub was stolen at night by a secret assailant. Duo Kong gave chase, but he ended up being beheaded. Taking a look at the wreckage later, we were able to ascertain that the assailant that took the cub was in possession of a battle skill. Qing Feng sighed with regret etched on his face. It was all because of my negligence. Mo Tian regretfully spoke. The anguish on his face could hardly be contained as if he blamed himself over Duo Kang's death. Jian Chen's face hardened as he questioned, "Did you manage to find out just who it was that took the cub away?" Not a single piece of information was found. That assailant didn't leave behind any clues for us to find. The cub was never found in Wake City ever again. Charkis shook his head. Jian Chen's eyebrows rose as he began to think to himself. Meanwhile, Kai Er continued to speak. After that, our forces were weakened against the might of the Alliance. Now stuck at a deadlock, we were very surprised to hear that the Alliance had begun to suffer from internal strife. Beginning to fight one another, it led to us witnessing the entire Alliance crumble and wither away into ash. We tried to take advantage of the chaos to subdue the rest of the straggling factions, but what we didn't expect was that another party would come in like the storm and beat us to it. They were the Defiance Mercenaries. Not even a few days later, the leader of the Defiance Mercenaries, the one-armed warrior, had even come to us and ordered us to swear allegiance to his mercenaries. After our refusal, the Defiance Mercenaries began to act as a foil to our own. There was some sort of unusual connection between City Lord and the one-armed warrior, so they were looked after with special consideration by the City Lord. As a result, the Defiance Mercenaries began to explode in development. Along the way, our mercenaries came into conflict with theirs several times to end up with what you witnessed today. Jian Shen hummed to himself after listening to the entire conversation. I didn't think that so much would happen in a short 2 years. Things have gotten far more complicated than I thought, but this cannot be blamed on you. Qing Feng hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth once more. Captain, there is still one more thing to report. Say it. Jian Chen spoke. Captain, after Weiss' death, Weiss' son took over the Dor clan and withdrew from our flame mercenaries. Now that Captain has returned, should we have the Dor clan rejoin us? Qing Feng asked. Giving it some consideration, Jian Chen spoke. No matter what is said, Weiss is a man who died for our flame mercenaries and merits a spot as a minister for outstanding service. I will go to his clan tomorrow. It's getting late now, and you should all go rest. Now that I've returned, the flame mercenaries' development will not be stopped. Tomorrow morning, I will have several important announcements for everyone. Kai Er and the other 3 left the hall so that Jian Chen and his group of 7 were the only ones left. Jian Chen, so this is your mercenary group? There's only 4 great Saint Masters and an unremarkable amount of strength, but that isn't important. With our strengths, it won't take long for us to transform the Flame Mercenaries into the strongest mercenary group in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Ming Dong spoke. And that is my plan as well. So, in light of this, does anyone have any favorable plans we may try? Jian Chen asked. Simple, we must build up our army. As long as you announce the fact that there are 7 Earth Saint Masters, I am sure many mercenaries would be willing to join us. Ming Dong suggested. While that is a decent plan, it will only bring forth the people with hidden agendas. We cannot find everyone, and it won't be long in the future that another repeat of today's events happen again. In my eyes, we should make our soldiers an elite squad, but in a controllable number. An elite squad of 100 can defeat a mob of 1,000 civilians. De Gufeng spoke. Oh, that's not bad. De Gufeng's suggestion has some merit to it. Why don't we just spend some time and blood in training these soldiers into becoming the elite soldiers we want? Ming Dong asked. Training them to become elite soldiers is a must. These soldiers are ones that I find suitable in both my mind and in reality, but it isn't enough. My goal is that in the future, the Flame Mercenaries will become the strongest on the Tianyuan continent. It will take a very long time, but this cannot be done slowly. I must move fast, move swiftly. Jian Chen said. Then I have a suggestion, everyone please consult about this as you see fit. Yu Yu finally spoke up from her long-seated silence. Jian Chen, if you wish to develop the Flame Mercenaries as quick as possible, then there is really only one path for you to go. You must go to the stronger cities and subdue all of the stronger mercenary groups under your control. With your strength, as long as you don't come across any Heaven Saint Masters, you will meet no obstruction. If we do that, then even if they swear allegiance to us on the surface, who knows what they just might do in secret. The things that happened today should be a lesson. Seniorin spoke. That isn't something we should worry about. In the face of absolute power, any machinations become as threatening as a paper tiger. The men with brains will see the strength of our group and know what they ought to do. To follow us would be to further their paths and reach a new height. If they stay within the mercenary group for long enough, they will come to love and cherish the group. Just like a civilian that lives in a kingdom, they will come to love the kingdom and cherish it as their family. The princess spoke. Moreover, Jian Chen is a Heaven Saint Master and a very strong one at that. The amount of individuals like him in any single kingdom is known to be scarce no matter where you are. To have a Heaven Saint Master as your patron is something every single person hopes for. To have a Heaven Saint Master as their patron is to have their statuses elevated even if they themselves are not strong. Needless to say, they will not fear some other force swallowing their power whole. Thus, they have no reason to decline joining us. Everyone had fallen silent after Yu Yu gave her piece. They all knew that she had only spoken words of pure logic. Truly, in the face of absolute power, any machination or secret plots were nothing more than paper tigers. No matter how big the wave, there would be no internal strife within the group as long as their captain remained upright. Jian Chen sat in silence as well as he processed her words. Taking notes of the detailed plan of Yu Yu, Jian Chen finally smiled and nodded his head. That isn't bad at all. Let us work as such. Having her own plan be approved by Jian Chen caused Yu Yu's face to reveal a delightful smile. However, there is one thing to be cautious about. When using force to make them submit, do not remove all forms of power from their previous leaders, otherwise, even if they submit, their anger for you will never be forgotten. Their mercenary groups were after all founded on hard work as well. If all of your hard work was so easily dismissed and taken away by someone else, I doubt there is a single person in the world that would accept such a slap in the face. Chapter 546, Increase of Strength, that is only natural. Yu Yu, your plan is quite impressive. The Flame Mercenaries will use this method from now on to become the strongest in the shortest amount of time possible. Jian Chen laughed with a happy smile on his face. Then, as if thinking of something else, the smile receded from his face. However, before we can develop the group, I still have several things that I need to take care of. Well, we will adjourn here for now. Everyone should go rest. We will continue this talk tomorrow. Kai Er had long since had his family prepare the most fanciful of rooms for Jian Chen and his entourage to rest in. Aside from the servants of the Kai family tidying up the broken bits and pieces of the courtyard and gates, only the sounds of the night could be heard. While Jian Chen and his group slept, news of the events that had transpired within the courtyards of the Kai family quickly made their way around the city. It didn't take long for the news to reach its way back to the mansion of the city lord. Within the mansion, the city lord Yunli could be seen sitting by his table with a cup of tea in hand. If it were any other time, then the lord would have long since retired to his bed for the night, but today was different. He knew that tonight would be the night that the Defiance mercenaries would clash with the Flame mercenaries. After tonight, there would no longer be a Flame mercenaries in Wake City, only the Defiance mercenaries. Just then, a black-robed man came scurrying into the room and kneeled on the ground. A report for the city lord. The captain of the Flame mercenaries has returned. The Defiance mercenaries have been killed, and the leader, the one-armed warrior, has been crippled and captured by them. The remaining Great Saint Masters were all beheaded in their attempt to escape, while the remaining members forfeited their space belts in order to live and escape in peace. What? Their captain, who hasn't returned in 2 years, has actually come back. And he's captured the one-armed warrior as well, you say? Yunli was astonished. He didn't expect this outcome at all. Yes, my lord. As of now, all of the Great Saint Masters of the Defiance mercenaries have been wholly slaughtered. Their mercenary group is no more. The informant relayed. Yunli's face paled by several shades of white for a moment before he slowly calmed himself. With a wave of his hand, he commanded, "You may leave. Your subordinate will withdraw for now." The informant immediately disappeared into the palace halls. After the informant left, Yunli's face hardened in worry as his eyebrows knit together. With a slow sigh, he murmured to himself, who would have imagined that Jian Chen would actually return at this moment. Truly, the machinations of man are superseded by those of the heavens. The Blue Wind Kingdom was millions of kilometers away from Mercenary City. In just travel time alone, it would take roughly half a year to get from one to the other. That was the reason why no news had made its way from there yet, so the city lord would naturally not know about the events that transpired in Mercenary City. Early the next morning, all 60 or so members of the Flame mercenaries gathered in the Kai family's courtyard. They stood tall and proudly with their eyes gleaming with brightness. In front of them, Jian Chen, Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Yun Zheng, Signorin, Tai Ta, and Yu Yu stood carefree. Jian Chen's eyes wandered over the group of people in front of him before he worked up an impassioned expression to make a speech. From today on, our Flame mercenaries will begin our climb in earnest. Our next goal is to become the strongest mercenary group within the Blue Wind Kingdom as soon as possible, and then the strongest mercenary group within the area. As of now, I will be serious and make an announcement. Pausing briefly to take in a deep breath, Jian Chen pointed at Ming Dong. This is Ming Dong, and from now on, he will be the vice captain of our Flame mercenaries. His power will be just below mine, but higher than everyone else's. Does anyone have any objections? There are none. We welcome our new vice captain. Kai Er had been the first to express his approval. Ming Dong may be as young as his son, but after witnessing how Ming Dong had so easily killed the experts of the Defiance mercenaries last night, he was well convinced of his strength. An Earth Saint Master was one that they could hardly afford to invite, so how could they refuse? There are no objections. We welcome our new vice captain, Ming Dong. Welcome to the new vice captain. One by one, the members of the Flame mercenaries began to cheer and welcome Ming Dong with jubilant expressions. Continuing on, Jian Chen said, "This is De Gufeng. His strength has been made clear to everyone, I presume. As an expert of the Earth Saint Master level, he will be given a position as an elder within our Flame mercenaries." This time, Jian Chen's statement of De Gufeng's strength had caused every single member to feel exuberant with happiness. Right now, their loyalty to the Flame mercenaries in their hearts grew so deep that should the need arise, they would lay their lives down for it. The Flame mercenaries were even more important than their own families. With the addition of 2 Earth Saint Masters to their group, just how could they not be happy? The faces of Kai Er, Qingfeng, Mo Tian, and Charcus in particular were essentially streaming with tears. It was clear to them that the days of suffering for the Flame mercenaries were finally over. What they would now welcome would be the dawn of a glorious tomorrow. Jian Chen's heartstrings began to tug as he looked at the excited faces of everyone. When he saw the deep expressions on their faces, Jian Chen knew that these men were the true pillars of the Flame mercenaries. Despite their strengths not being that great, these members were true and faithful to the Flame mercenaries. Jian Chen took in a deep breath to school his emotions before continuing with his speech. These three are Yunzheng, Signoran, and Tai Ta. Yunzheng and Signoran are both Earth Saint Masters as well. They will serve as the law keepers for our mercenaries. Upon hearing that both Yunzheng and Signoran were Earth Saint Masters, the flame mercenaries exploded into a rambunctious cheer. Their emotions flooded their faces at an unprecedented speed. The excitement continued for some time before Jianghu held up his palm to calm the crowd. Tai Ta is a great Saint Master, but he will hold the same position of power as Kai Er, Qingfeng, Mo Tian, and Charkis. Henceforth, the mercenaries here today will be the core of the flame mercenaries. Everything you might need for your cultivation, such as funding, living expenses, or anything else required by you mercenaries, will be handled by the entirety of the group. The monster cores required for your cultivation will be provided for your strength to be increased. By now, Jianghu possessed a mountain of monster cores and a surplus of wealth that could rival an entire nation. To provide for these 60 or so men whose strengths were at the great Saint Master would be nothing more than a single hair from 9 cows. Furthermore, these men had experienced a trail of fire to prove their loyalty. Hence, they were worth Jianghu's time to nurture and train. Jianghu's words caused the entire mercenary group to fly into another frenzy once more. Why did they become mercenaries? Was it not to hunt the monster cores from the magical beasts to cultivate? Was it not for exchanging these cores for money to cover their living expenses? With Jianghu now handling the expenditures for both monster cores and their costs of living, all of their worries in life practically alleviated. They could dedicate the rest of their time and energy to cultivating. No more would they have to fight with others for monster cores. This alone brought them no small amount of elation. This tremendous windfall was so sudden that many of the men thought that they had fallen into a dream. The events that were happening in front of them simply couldn't be real. They had to be an illusion. Jianghu took out a white jade bottle from his space ring. This is an unbelievable heavenly resource that money cannot buy in this world. Its name is the 100-grass wine. It has the ability to increase your strength, so I will grant you all a drop. Jianghu unstoppered the bottle and allowed a drop of the green liquid to slowly pour out one at a time. Once it was in the air, it floated up beside Jianghu. After having poured out the rest of the bottle and using his mind to float them in the air, Jianghu had the droplets delivered to the 60 members, Kai Er, and the other 3. Everyone could only stare blankly at the floating green droplets. Jianghu's method of delivery had surprised them. For a bizarre sight like this was something they had never seen before. Seeing the stunned looks on everyone's faces, Jianghu revealed a faint smile. Hurry and drink it. If exposed too long to the outside world, its potency will decrease. As if shaken from their stupor, every single mercenary immediately opened their mouths to swallow the liquid. A surge of boundless energy began to fill the entirety of their being as soon as the green liquid entered their stomachs. It caused the members to feel greatly shocked. Some of them even fell to the ground in a seated position so they could fully dedicate themselves to digesting the raw energy coursing through their bodies. The thousands of years old 100-grass wine was something that had the greatest benefit on an individual of the Heaven Saint Master level. Jianghu himself had used the 100-grass wine to increase the power of his mind. In Kargath Academy, it had even been enough to force Kafir through the bottleneck he had been stuck at for many years. From this, it could be seen that the potency of the 100-grass wine was extremely effective. Despite this, Jianghu was still willing to let each member have a drop of the wine. The great saints or Saint Master's strength would substantially increase after receiving such a boundless amount of energy packed in this drop of wine. An hour later, Qingfeng, Kai Er, Mo Tian, and Charkis were the first 4 to reawaken. The 4 great Saint Masters' eyes flew open and a brilliant light could be seen in them. I've actually reached the pinnacle of a great Saint Master. There is just one more step needed for me to become an Earth Saint Master. The look of shock on Kai Er's face could hardly be repressed as he spoke with excitement. I too have gone from a middle great Saint Master to a peak great Saint Master. Qingfeng spoke passionately. After drinking a drop of the 100-grass wine, the 4 of them had all reached the very peak stage of a great Saint Master. From there, it was only a short step away from becoming an Earth Saint Master. Chapter 547, Imparting a Battle Skill. After the four of them had woken up, several of the flame mercenaries awoke as well. Sensing that their strengths had improved by a substantial amount, expressions of joy filled their faces. These men were originally middle Saint Masters or high Saint Masters. Now, practically a dozen of them had broken through to become a great Saint Master after they finished off the 100-grass wine. A candle's worth of time later, the last few dozen people finally woke up. When they felt how much their strength had increased, they were so happy that they couldn't help but let out cries of joy. Everyone in the Flame Mercenaries was ecstatic by this point. Every single great saint had become a Saint Master. Not a single one was below a Saint Master in strength, and even the ones who were originally middle Saint Masters had become great Saint Masters. The men who were low great Saint Masters were now high great Saint Masters. Not even 2 hours into the meeting and the strength of the entire Flame Mercenaries had skipped several steps. Even if Jianghu wasn't here, their new strength would be more than enough to rule a small city like Wake City. Even the city lord would not be able to gather an equivalent amount of strength. 1,000 thanks for the captain's charity. The mercenaries all bowed down with a grand shout. Each one of them was especially happy. Jianghu smiled. Although you've all grown stronger, your battle strength still needs to be trained, so you can become accustomed to your new strength. I will give you all 100 purple coins each. Go and purchase the necessities to live in the wilderness. Tomorrow morning, we will head to the Magical Beast Mountain Range and train. You will only be able to return if you can kill 3 Class 4 magical beasts by yourself without help. Kai Er, Motion, Qingfeng, and Charcus, you 4 will form a group and follow them. You will listen to my requests as well before you 4 may leave. Jianghu's words made every single mercenary grow serious. To fight a magical beast on par with them was a very tall order to fulfill. It would normally take about 2 or 3 men to kill a magical beast of their strength because their fortitude, muscles, and build outclassed a human. Only the strongest of men would be able to go head-to-head with them, and very few would be able to prevail against one. When Jianghu decreed that they all had to kill 3 of them by themselves, they felt that this would be a mission that they would never be able to accomplish or come back alive. Captain, as of now, killing a single Class 4 magical beast is hard enough, but for us to kill 3 of them, isn't that too much to ask? Charcus asked. Jianghu shook his head. It isn't difficult at all. As a saint, I hunted Class 2 magical beasts. As a great saint, I hunted Class 3 magical beasts. Then as a Saint Master, I fought Class 4 magical beasts. If I can do it, then everyone will be able to do the same. This trip to the mountain range is a training trip to increase your battle strength. Remember that when you gain the strength to fight enemies of your own level, then your battle experience, skill, and speed will increase dramatically. Those 3 points are most critical, so remember them when you go. Pausing for a moment, Jianghu stared seriously at everyone. I still have something to give to everyone when we arrive at the Magical Beast Mountain Range. It'll lend a hand in improving your strength. Do you all understand now? Jianghu fished out a bag of purple coins from his space ring and began to give everyone 100 purple coins to buy equipment with. Although it wouldn't need such a large sum for such things, these mercenaries still had families they needed to provide for. While Jianghu had handed them all a very serious and worrisome mission, the mercenaries couldn't help but smile when they saw the shimmering glint of the 100 purple coins. A single purple coin was worth 100 gold coins. A few purple coins was more than enough for an entire family to live half a generation of luxury. Therefore, a sum like this was more than enough to spend on an entire lifetime. After receiving the sum of money, each of the mercenaries departed from the Kai family's courtyards with happy faces. They were headed to the nearby markets. Kai Er, Qingfeng, Motion, Charcus, come with me. Jianghu called for the 4 to follow him to his own personal room. Kai Er and the others followed close behind until they got to his room. As soon as they arrived, Jianghu placed a single tattered but simple book on top of the table. Handing the books over to the 4, Jianghu explained, there is a total of 8 battle skills in here, 6 human-tier battle skills and 2 earth-tier battle skills. You may take this and learn from it. Kai Er and the other three began to shake at the mention of battle skill. The book in front of them made their blood boil in excitement, and Jian Chen's explanation brought them such shock that their bodies nearly began to spasm. Charkis' face was completely red as he spoke with a quavering voice. Captain, is this true? Are these really 6 human-tier battle skills and 2 earth-tier battle skills? And you're really giving them to us? A battle skill was an extremely precious treasure on the continent. It was far more valuable than cultivation methods, and even thousands and thousands of gold wouldn't be able to buy one. Even the lowest tier of human-tier battle skills was extremely pricey, so that any mercenary would hardly be able to afford one. Only the strongest individuals or the most influential ones would be able to obtain such battle skills. Earth-tier battle skills were even more priceless, especially to Earth Saint Masters. Only a small portion of them possessed an Earth-tier battle skill, but Jian Shen had given them a present that contained 2. This was a windfall that made the 4 of them wild with joy. Laughing at how excited they were, Jian Shen smiled. It is as you say. You are the senior figures of the Flame Mercenaries. With all the years of suffering you 4 have undergone for the sake of the development of the Flame Mercenaries, Jian Shen will definitely do my best to train you 4, and thanks for your loyalty. These 8 battle skills are yours to learn. Pass them on to the rest of the mercenaries after you're done. Those who are not yet Great Saint Masters are only permitted to learn the human-tier battle skills. The Earth-tier battle skills are not something they are capable of learning yet. The Great Saint Masters are free to learn them if they wish. Captain, for all your efforts in helping to train us, we will make sure that we won't disappoint you. For the rest of our lives, we will follow you anywhere, to death even with unflinching loyalty. Kai Er and the other 3 gratefully bowed. Smiling at the 4, Jian Shen had them rise back to their feet. Work hard, you 4. I will not treat any one of my brothers unfairly. When you become Earth Saint Masters, then I will impart a heaven-tier battle skill to you. Again, the 4 of them began to tremble violently as they became slack-jawed. The words, heaven-tier battle skill, were even louder than a clap of thunder to their ears and could make anyone lose their train of thought in a second. For a while, they remained blank before finally returning to awareness. In their eyes, a heaven-tier battle skill was a paramount of a treasure. Very few Heaven Saint Masters possessed them, and not a single one of the Heaven Saint Masters in the Blue Wind Kingdom possessed such a battle skill. With Jian Shen suddenly telling them that they would receive a heaven-tier battle skill when even the Heaven Saint Masters of the Blue Wind Kingdom did not own one, they could hardly believe their ears. A very long time later, Charkis was the first to snap back to awareness. Shocked, he looked to Jian Shen and asked, Captain, do you really have a heaven-tier battle skill? Smiling and nodding, Jian Shen replied, correct. I have a heaven-tier battle skill, and not just one either. By now, Jian Shen did not need to hide the fact that he possessed heaven-tier battle skills. With his strength, he was more than strong enough to protect them from Heaven Saint Masters at the very least. Not a single person would dare to try to start trouble with him. Charkis continued to stare blankly at Jian Shen with his mouth wide open. The entirety of what he heard just now was far too unbelievable. Just then, Jian Shen looked away for a moment with a smile. An acquaintance has stopped by. Let us go greet him. Walking out of the room, Jian Shen was followed by Kai Er and the others with wooden expressions. They were clearly still processing what they had heard back in the room. Walking into the courtyards, Jian Shen saw the rather regal-looking city lord Yunli smiling and chatting with Ming Dong. The moment Jian Shen stepped into the courtyard, Yunli had discovered him from the corner of his eyes. Immediately smiling to welcome him, Yunli said, Aya, brother Jian Shen. You've finally returned. I heard you participated in the gathering of the mercenaries 2 years ago. I felt quite concerned for a good while, afraid that my dear brother Jian Shen would come into danger. But seeing you now, I can see that my concerns were unfounded. How young and promising you are, and how powerful. Even if it's danger, you are able to turn it into fortune. Seeing how healthy and impressive you are, I can only assume that you've made quite the achievement for yourself in the gathering of the mercenaries. Cupping his hands, Jianghu smiled. The city lord certainly has been worried. The gathering of the mercenaries has given me a new lease on life. With good fortune, I was able to survive and prosper. Chapter 548. To the ruler of the city ruler Yunli was very shocked to hear what Jianghu said. Originally he had thought that Jianghu didn't even make it to Mercenary City. Very few great Saint Masters were likely to survive to join the gathering of the mercenaries. Not only did Jianghu say he had participated, he survived. What a fortunate kid. Yunli thought to himself, but the emotions on his face did not betray his thoughts as he continued to smile. Ha ha ha, that is only proof of your strength. If you were able to make the journey to Mercenary City, then you must have benefited greatly from the experience. There was indeed bountiful experience gained, but it's not worth mentioning. Jianghu courteously replied. As Yunli continued to chat happily with Jianghu, his eyes began to observe Kai Er and the other three every so often. According to his senses, he was more than capable enough to see the massive transformation the four of them had undergone. Startled, he thought to himself, peak great Saint Masters. They're that strong? But how? They were barely middle great Saint Masters before Jianghu came back. What prompted this sudden breakthrough? How did they become as strong as me so quickly? He tried not to think about Kai Er and the other three. Instead, he tried to talk Jianghu about more important topics before leaving in a hurry. After Yunli left, Qingfeng sneered. That Yunli is an unsavory character. He helped the Defiance mercenaries grow in secret before. Does he think we don't know that? That's right, at the time of the collapse of the alliance, the one-armed warrior had just arrived in Wake City with some of his followers. If it weren't for Yunli helping them, the one-armed warrior wouldn't have so easily gained strength. Charka spoke venomously with clear signs of hostility between him and Yunli. Jianghu's eyes flashed with an icy light for a moment as he listened, but without another word more, he turned to Kai Er. Let us go to the Door clan. The Door clan once possessed some name to it in Wake City as one of the major's power before. When their previous head of the family Weiss left the world, the Door family was left with his son as the acting head. When they left the Flame mercenaries, their power in the city had taken a huge loss in strength and authority since Weiss had been their only great Saint Master. Riding the Class 3 magical beast mounts, Jianghu and the 6 others arrived in front of the gates where the Door family resided. The 4 mercenaries had led the way. The Door family no longer displayed the same glorious splendor they had in the past. The ancient-looking doors were closed shut and leaves were scattered everywhere. Even guards weren't seen anywhere, making the area look rather desolate and abandoned. A moment after Kai Er knocked upon the ancient-looking doors, they began to open to reveal a white-haired elder. Clearly recognizing Kai Er, the elder immediately gave a smile and greeted him. So it was you, Lord Kai Er. Come in please. Hurriedly opening the door, the elder began to welcome him inside. Hurry up and call out Weiji. Tell him the captain of the Flame mercenaries has returned. The captain of the Flame mercenaries. Stunned, the elder looked at the men riding the magical beasts outside the doors and snapped back to awareness. Yes. I will go retrieve the Lord. Having said that, the elder stumbled back into the interior of the compound. Pushing open the doors the rest of the way, Kai Er said to Jianghu, Captain, please come in. Dismounting from his mount, Jianghu strolled into the compound. At that moment, the newly informed Weiji came hurrying on over along with 2 females. The acting head of the Door clan, Weiji, was also the only son of Weiss. Weiji pays his respects to the captain. Weiji was no stranger to Jianghu and immediately bowed to him. This one pays her respects to the captain. The middle-aged woman followed Weiji's example and bowed down to Jianghu with panic. Only the child that looked several years old continued to stare at Jianghu with wide-open eyes. Jianghu's gaze softened as he looked at Weiji. Smiling, he said, Weiji, this must be your wife and child. Yes, Captain. This is my wife and child. Weiji was nervous in his response to Jianchen. When his father had passed away from battle, he had taken the initiative to leave the Flame Mercenaries. Now that the captain had returned and had personally come to visit, Weiji was more than nervous and afraid that Jianchen came to condemn them. Amicably, Jianchen smiled at Weiji. Weiji, please relax. I came here today for a social visit only. No matter what is said, your Dor family was once members of the Flame Mercenaries. Your father died for our Flame Mercenaries. His services and achievements will never be forgotten to us. Weiji could only sigh in relief having heard those words. At the mention of his deceased father, his eyes began to tear up. Weiji. When I wasn't here in the past, the Flame Mercenaries suffered greatly. Now that I've returned, the Flame Mercenaries will not be stop its development. Will you be willing to rejoin the Flame Mercenaries? The achievements your father worked hard to achieve for us will be remembered by me as if you had done the same. I will do my best to help make you grow stronger. Jianchen continued. Weiji hesitated for a moment. Looking at his wife and child, he shook his head. Captain, I truly wish to apologize, but this one has no ambitions for greatness or power. I only wish to protect the remaining pieces of stability and giving peace to my family instead of spending me time around the continent. I have no desire to throw away my life for a struggle that could claim it at any moment. Jianchen let out a sigh. That is fine too. If you wish to live in peace and stability, then I won't force you out of it. Your father dedicated his entire being to my mercenary group, and even sacrificed his life for it. Even with his departure, I will remember his achievements and reward you for them in his place. Jianchen retrieved several space belts he had prepared beforehand from his space ring and handed them over to Weiji. Inside these are a few coins and monster cores. In place of your father, I will give them to you. Take them, and I hope that in the future I can count on your assistance once more. Misty-eyed and emotionally affected, Weiji's hand trembled as it accepted the space belts handed to him by Jianchen. When he had learned that the captain had returned, Weiji feared that he would be tortured by the group, and had been nervous as a result. It had been beyond his wildest dreams that Jianchen did not blame him or rebuke him, and had instead handed him a present of money and monster cores. Many thanks to the captain for his charity. Weiji exclaimed. Smiling, Jianchen replied, although your father has left, it should be my responsibility to look after his offspring. In the case that your Dor clan comes across any trouble, then seek out the Flame Mercenaries. On that note, I will bid you farewell from here. With that said, Jianchen turned around to leave, and got on his Class 3 magical beast mount. Traveling on top of his mount in no hurry, Jianchen felt the snowy white tiger cub still sleeping in content against his chest as it digested the resources in its body. Jianchen slowly rubbed the furry head of the tiger cub sleeping against his chest. With the large amount of heavenly resources the tiger cub had been fed, the cub had grown exponentially stronger, and had already reached the same level as a Class 4 magical beast. Ming Dong, Kai Er, and the others followed Jianchen from behind. They had learned of the tiger cub Jianchen had a long time ago, but everyone had thought that Jianchen was merely raising it to be a cute pet, therefore, they paid it no attention. Kai Er, you received a Class 5 magical beast cub, just who in the world stole it? Jianchen suddenly asked. Kai Er hesitated for a moment, prompting Qingfeng to speak up for him. We had many of our men fan out and search the city, but we never found any clues of who might have committed such an act. The same evening the cub was stolen, we had our men watch the city gates. If any person had been seen carrying a cub out of the city, we would have been notified. Even several days later, not a single piece of information was reported to us. No news of the one responsible was reported, so we all figured that the Class 5 magical beast cub had already been snuck out of the city, escaping into any possible direction. The Golden Tiger King's cub carries an unforgettable story with our Flame Mercenaries. Jianchen sighed as he thought back to the past and what had transpired back then. Confused by the look of Jianchen, Kai Er asked, Captain, what type of relationship is there between the cub and our mercenary group? Hatred. Jianchen stated with his eyes closed. Kai Er and the other three still remained confused. Although they had joined the group for a decent amount of time, they were still unclear of what had happened to the group in the past. Captain, just what in the world happened with the tiger cub to cause such hatred? Qin Feng asked curiously, but no answer had been given to him. Having received no response, the group of four had taken note that Jian Chen was unwilling to respond to them. Thus, they could only obediently close their mouths without any further questions. Suddenly, Jian Chen's eyes flew open as he began to radiate a tremendous amount of killing intent. "Come, let us head to the city lord's mansion," he growled. Chapter 549, Culprit of Stealing Away the Cub. 1. Jian Chen's face grew progressively darker and more malicious as he whirled into a different direction. He then led the group toward the city lord's mansion. The group was confused by Jian Chen's sudden transformation. None of them were able to tell just what could happen to make Jian Chen act as such. Despite their befuddlement, the look on Jian Chen's face was enough to make them silent and follow from behind. The mansion of the city lord was located at the center of Wake City, so Jian Chen rode his magical beast mount through the streets to his destination, much to the curious but envious eyes of every spectator around. In the small city that was Wake City, a Class 3 magical beast mount was an extremely rare sight to behold and could hardly be seen at all. 7 of them appearing at once was a very eye-catching sight for every person on the streets. It called for many mercenaries to begin to talk to themselves. Look at those youths riding on top of the magical beast mounts, and look at their rich-looking clothes. These men have to be the young children of some sort of powerful family. Look! Look how pretty that female in the middle is, she's practically a fairy. I swear on my wretched life that she has to be the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I can barely even breath. Aren't those 4 the heads of the flame mercenaries standing right behind them? Strange, why do they look like they're servants for that group? I've heard that the captain of the flame mercenaries came back out of the blue last night. Could the men on top of the magical beast mounts be related to the captain? I've heard that the captain is very strong, especially at his age. Wouldn't that person leading the front up there be him? I think I heard someone say earlier today that the one-armed warrior of the Defiance mercenaries was crippled by the captain. All of the remaining experts of the Defiance mercenaries were killed and the group was dissolved. I wonder if that rumor is true. As Jian Chen and his group traversed the streets, everyone turned to look and chatter among themselves about this phenomenon in front of them. However, Jian Chen turned a deaf ear to their words and didn't bother to pay attention to them at all. Soon, the group arrived at the city lord's mansion, where Kai Er immediately strode forward to negotiate with the guards at the gates. The captain of the flame mercenaries has come to pay a visit. Please notify the city lord. The flame mercenaries were very well known throughout Wake City, so when the guard heard that the captain had come to pay a visit, he didn't dare to neglect his duties. He immediately went off to report to the city lord. When Yunli had received news that Jian Chen was here, he immediately threw whatever item he had down and went out to receive him. After several words of greeting, Jian Chen and Yunli both walked into the greater halls. Brother Jian Chen, I didn't think that you would come to the mansion in person. What an honor it is to receive you in my home. Yunli laughed with happiness. The dark expression on Jian Chen's face was nowhere to be seen since his arrival. Smiling in reply, he said, when you visit a temple, you visit with a reason. Here I am today with the hope that the city lord will be able to help me with something. Ha ha ha, brother Jian Chen, you are far too polite. Whatever it is you need assistance with, I will do my best to assist. There is no need for this politeness. Yunli laughed. Pausing for a moment, Jian Chen replied, City lord, my flame mercenaries were once in possession of a Class 5 magical beast cub before, but it was unfortunately stolen from a thief one night. Not only did he kill a senior figure of my group, the flame mercenaries had spent a tremendous amount of time and energy to find the culprit to no avail. This one hopes that the city lord will help assist our flame mercenaries to bring this assassin to light. That'll be no problem at all. Rest assured, brother Jian Chen. I will dispatch my men straight away to search the city to help find this assailant to bring them to justice. Yunli waved his hand without hesitation to help coordinate with Jianchen. Then I'll be troubling you with this task. Jianchen cupped his hands with a smile. Yunli laughed, it'll be no trouble. It's a small matter to me. Brother Jianchen, I am 20 or so years older than you. If you don't mind, please just think of me as your brother. In the future, should you ever have any need for this older brother, please allow me to help you. Kai Er, Qingfeng, Motian, and Charkis snorted to themselves in secret as they gave disdainful glares at Yunli behind Jianchen's back. They didn't know what level of strength Jianchen was now, but if Jianchen was capable of being able to give out a heaven-tier battle skill, then his strength definitely couldn't be belittled. Seated at such a high level of power, a small city ruler like Yunli was in a completely different field of influence than Jianchen. City Lord, let us talk about that after we find the culprit responsible. With that assailant being the one responsible for killing a senior figure of the Flame Mercenaries, I swear on my name of Jianchen that I won't let them go unpunished. Right now I only wish to dedicate myself to finding that man. Jianchen's words were tantamount to a refusal of what Yunli had asked. Yunli had remained unruffled despite the refusal Jianchen handed out. If brother Jianchen wishes to find that assailant, then your older brother will naturally help you. As long as it is within Wake City, there is nothing your older brother cannot resolve. He smiled. Waving for several of his soldiers, Yunli commanded them with a serious expression, go and notify Commander Duoli. Have him lead a detachment of troops through the city and check the experts hidden throughout the city. This servant will do as instructed. The soldier replied before retreating. One moment. Jianchen suddenly called out. City Lord, there is no need for such an inconvenient way of searching for the culprit. That unknown expert has most likely changed his face so we wouldn't know what to look for. However, there is a definite method to find them. The Class 5 magical beast cub is still with them, so we just need to focus our efforts on finding the cub. This way our goal will be much easier. That's right, absolutely right. Yunli completely agreed. As expected from the intelligent Jianchen. What quick-witted thinking. This way, our troubles will be lessened. After stealing a Class 5 magical beast, there would be no way that the culprit would let it escape his control so easily. As long as we find the Class 5 magical beast cub, then we will find the culprit with it. It is as the city lord says. As long as we find the cub, we will find the assailant that dared strike at my Flame Mercenaries and kill a senior figure. Furthermore, the city lord's information network is quite effective. Would you happen to have information of what happened with the cub in the few days after it was stolen from my Flame Mercenaries? Jianchen's eyes attentively stared down Yunli as he questioned. Yunli's expression remained unchanged. Letting out a sigh, he replied, Brother Jianchen, you overestimate your older brother's spy network. It isn't able to delve too deeply into anything, and for something like the Class 5 magical beast cub, this older brother knows nothing about it. Perhaps the thief has already left Wake City? Left Wake City, is that true? Jianchen muttered with a glint of ice flashing through his eyes. Everyone, with me. Without informing Yunli, Jianchen began to leave the halls. Yunli's face faltered slightly after seeing the retreating back of Jianchen. Quickly recovering, he chased after him with cordial urging, Brother Jianchen, why leave so soon? Come and sit for a while. Your older brother will have some of my men prepare a feast to welcome your victorious return from Mercenary City. Who said I was leaving? I only wish to turn around. Lord Yunli, if you don't mind, please accompany us. Jianchen spoke, but this time, his voice was considerably more frigid than before. Then allow your older brother to be your guide around here. The flower garden is this way, why not take a seat there? Yunli began to pull Jianchen's arm in the direction of the flower garden. Jianchen shook his arm to force away Yunli's palm. Who said I wish to go to the flower garden? Lord Yunli, you should follow us quietly. Jianchen didn't even spare him a glance as he spoke to him with an even colder tone. He walked to the second story of the building. Troubled by the sudden change in the tone of Jian Chen's words, Yunli was further shocked to realize just where Jian Chen was walking. Hurriedly running after him, Yunli said, "Brother Jian Chen, that is my resting room. Why are you going there?" This time, Jian Chen did not pay attention to Yunli. Yunli had originally wanted to stop Jian Chen from walking into his personal chamber, but how could Jian Chen be stopped by someone like him? The smile that had been on Yunli's face had finally disappeared now that he was exasperated with Jian Chen's actions. Staring hard at Jian Chen, he said with a low voice, "Jian Chen, just what are you doing? Explain your actions. You'll find out in a moment." Jian Chen laughed. They had by now reached his resting rooms. Jian Chen then kicked down the door to walk in. Blanching, Yunli immediately strode forward to stop Jian Chen. "Jian Chen. What is the meaning of this? This is the home of the city lord, for what reason could you have to act as you please here?" A cold sneer appeared on Jian Chen's face as he stretched out his arm. With a single swipe, the energy of the world quickly gathered in his palm, and slammed into the ground before Yunli could react. A single explosion could be heard as the entire building creaked from the boom. Dust flew into the air and obstructed everyone's vision. Following a gust of wind that blew away the dust in the air, everyone could see the entire room without trouble. In the ground at the center of the room, there was a pitch-dark hole leading down. Seeing this entrance, Yunli's face seemed to be stricken with fear, and his body went slack. Jian Chen's icy stare made its way to Yunli before snorting, "Kai Er, Qingfeng, Charcus, Mo Tian. You four go in." "Yes." The four replied before leaping into the cellar below. Several moments later, the four reappeared from the hole with extremely serious expressions. In Qingfeng's hand was a cubic meter cage where a little cub with golden fur, not even half a meter long, could be seen. From within its cage, the cub's eyes roamed timidly over everyone while it cowered in a corner. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.